I'm sorry, no brainer. I didn't mean to be late. That wasn't my plan. I got sucked into a thing. Hi everybody, how you doing? I just came from a cabin trip, and this is I kind of have to tell everybody about this. I came from a cabin trip right now, where we went to a wooden cottage out in the middle of nowhere, and we put on cowboy hats and southern accents, and we played cowboy D&D for 3 nights in a row, three full days of just going yeehaw and shooting prop guns at the snake people. Hi everybody. I'm doing pretty good. The the adventure was a lot of fun. I ran this kind of Death of the West campaign, and we've been doing this for 7 years. This was our sixth time doing it, and it's a whole lot of fun. It's probably my favorite tradition, and we made it up. Turns out you could just make up traditions. It's kind of crazy. Yeehaw! Yeah. Uh, AB's going to be joining us a little late. She's having dinner with her family because it's Easter, and I'll be starting us off here by my lonesome, and then eventually she'll join. Oh, Peter's here. Hey, Peter. Thanks so much. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, 40,000. That's insane. We just started. And we're not done. We're gonna keep going. we're gonna keep doing our best to make sure that we provide uh good content for you folks, videos as best as we can with the free time we have available. Yeah, Rob, you're absolutely fashionably late. Um by which I mean you're not really late at all. I was fashionably late as well. So the way we do these Patreons, in order to answer the first question of the stream, Prince Chicken Hair asks, how do I ask a question during a Q&A like this? Just like that. That'll be fine. But before we get there, we're going to do a bunch of questions from the Discord, because anybody who's a member of our Patreon or on the YouTube memberships, they get to ask questions on Discord before anybody else, and then we read those questions first. And that's one of the many services we provide on our Patreon. See, that's a little plug there. That's something I do now. I plug. Have I played Wrath and Glory or any of the other 40k TTRPGs? Sorry, I'm gonna scroll up. I'm gonna disconnect from chat, so I won't be able to see the things you folks are texting. I'm just gonna start by reading the things on the Patreon. Now I wonder, is there a way for me to do this cleverly? I don't know. Let's start with the first question. So I apologize if you folks are texting in chat. No, no brainer. No. If you're texting in chat, I won't be able to say hi for a minute, but I'll be reading off of the thing. Oh, Anna's gonna moderate. Yeah. Thank you, Anna. That's exactly right. Go put a question before it so that when we scroll through chat later, we'll be able to see everything. Just like she said. That's Anna, not Anna Birna. See, there are two. The first question off of the patrons, they ask, Ant asks, what monster have I had the biggest change of opinion on over the last 10 years, and what class? Negative or positive change? I don't know. I like, if we're talking about edition changes, I think the Ranger finally got a lot of love. I know a lot of people are not happy with the love the Ranger received, but I think it was much overdue. The monk got absolutely hugely buffed and boosted, which is fantastic to see. Monster. Oh, I remember. I looked at a few of these today to try and make sure I had answers for these. I used to really appreciate monsters that would be like, a goblin or a kobold. It has an attack. It has one defining feature that tells me sort of about their society or what they're like. These days, I get way more excited by a monster that's weird, that has mechanics in it that change the game. A beholder's eye rays, and you roll randomly to see which eye ray it uses. Or the hill giant mouth of Grolantor. That kind of stuff really appeals to me because it's got this kind of weird, funky vibe to it, and it immediately makes me think of like, I don't know. It's like I open the monster book and I go, oh, that's different. I haven't really thought to do that. That sounds exciting, and it sounds like a guaranteed way to have fun tonight when we play. A lot of the times I'm just flipping through the monster manual and I'm going to see, if something strikes me as fun, and then I make sure to put it in my game. Cookie Dude asks, if I could live in one sci-fi, fantasy, or miscellaneous setting, which would they be? Oh, and okay, yeah. So each one of each. Sci-fi got to be Star Trek. It seems like those people have everything figured out back on Earth, so I think I'd be very happy living there. Fantasy setting, I've always wanted to live in the Shire. I'm a hobbit at heart. If I could do nothing other than eat and smoke pipe tobacco, that would be a good existence. Much like on the cowboy cabin trip. That's basically what we did. Miscellaneous setting. I don't know. Setting that's neither sci-fi nor fantasy. Really lame, but I kind of want to say something like, I don't know. No, I don't know. West Wing. West Wing's just set in real world, but everything's nicer. That sounds nice. Halixon asks, do I do player on NPC romances in our games? And if so, how do I handle them? I don't mind the concept myself in games, and my players have expressed interest in the idea, but I'm unsure of the best ways to approach it. We've done that kind of stuff. It's a lot of just making sure everybody's having fun. It's not too different from actual romances when you're flirting with someone or whatever. You're sort of trying to gauge what they like, what they're okay with. It's kind of the same thing when you're obviously not actually flirting with them, but you have to sort of figure out for each person individually what they want and what they're hoping to get out of this and what they're okay with, and then what you're okay with. There are players at my table that I absolutely would run a romance for, and there are players at my table who I've been playing with for years, and we are not interested in running romance scenes together, so we sort of handwave them. A player I've been playing with longer than anybody has got a wife in game, and I'm like, neither of us have any interest really in any romance there. But I like nagging him in character. Gunnar asks that I talked about steps to transition from socialization to socializing to playing. Do my players ever rebel when I'm trying to start the game? Are they ever like, no, Daði, change the lights back. We need to finish talking about the annoying neighbor. When we start playing a game, we have a sort of ritual we run through. We made a video about this, and I change the lights, I change the music, and we sort of build up to a certain point where we get ready to start playing. And no, we never really have anyone rebel. Occasionally, somebody might continue talking through the ritual, but what happens is all the other players really want to play D&D, so they'll go, shh, be quiet. We're gonna start. What's far more likely to happen is that we're talking for too long, and one of the players, usually Anna, who's the moderator in chat, will be staring at me like, "Can we start? Can we please start?" So that's usually when we start playing. We try and keep it to 30 minutes, but occasionally we fail to meet our goals there. Gunnar also asked if me and AB are introverted or extroverted. I mean, she's not here to answer, but I assume that she's okay with me saying she's quite introverted. I used to think of myself as being an introvert, but I think I've discovered that's not true. I think I need need to talk to people. I need to lord up on somebody. I need to go and yap and chew their ear off. That's sort of how I recharge my batteries. Sersha the Man asks, do I have similar guidelines for social encounters as I do for combat ones? Different types, different objectives? If not, what would you say are some good rules to follow? I read this question when you posted it, and I thought that's a fantastic idea for a video series to talk about social encounters and what the types of social encounters are, what their objectives are. I think we could absolutely make those videos. I think like negotiations are kind of a better way to think of them, because a social encounter can mean just two characters talking about the weather, but that's not an encounter. Like, it doesn't have conflict. And when you put a different word to it, I think it makes it clear. Like we were talking about with exploration in the Hexcrawl video. Exploration seems like a nebulous term, but then you think, no, it's we're talking about discovery, and suddenly it makes more sense. It's about what do we discover here? What are we learning? Same with social encounters. As soon as you call them negotiation, it becomes clear that what we're actually doing is we're trying to barter. We're trying to come to an agreement. We're trying to figure out, we're trying to figure out what the other person wants and how can we give them what they want without compromising our own morals. And once you get down to that sort of tier of play, or like thinking about it that way, it becomes a lot clearer. If you want a sort of guide to get started, I know the draw steal negotiation rules that Matt Perkins made a video on. I assume Matt Perkins is not related to Chris Perkins. Hang on, I might just post this. Let me see if I can't. I'm gonna send you, Sergio, I'm gonna send you 2 bits of homework to help answer your question. First off, this Matt Perkins video. Second, let's see if I can find this. Every Frame a Painting video essay called Who Wins the Scene. It's 3 minutes long. If you're ever doing any sort of, you're trying to think of how to get started on dialogue in your games, think about who wins the scene. If a dialogue is like a sparring competition, who's winning? Who's on top? Who's got things figured out? Who's at the mercy of the other person? And how do we know? How do we figure that out? But I think absolutely we should make a video on this. Kilt asks, what are physical resources, books, cards, minis, I would consider the best addition? Which ones have been the worst addition to my table? Both for me personally. Well, I have a lot of affection for the Hero Forge minis we own. We make our own characters on Hero Forge, and we get them printed and sent to the country, and they're hugely important to me that our minis look like our characters. Sometimes somebody's playing a game and we have sort of a random collection of hero minis, and maybe some of them are unpainted, or some of them are they don't really look like the character. There's a player in our Odyssey the Dragon Lords campaign. He's playing this sort of sneaky rogue, and he's got a spear. So he picks up a half giant, like a really tall half giant, carrying a keg of ale. And that always bugs me whenever I see it on the table. I'm like, oh, I should buy him a mini. The worst addition to the table, I once played with a friend of mine who liked the idea of doing fumble and crit cards, and I really disliked it. I'm sorry if Stefan, if you're learning that now, I apologize. But I really disliked it. I don't like the idea of like yes and on fumbles. I feel like that kind of robs my hero of their heroism. Also, it just tended to slow down play, like getting these cards, and the mechanics were often written quite poorly. And there was a lot of them, so there were like 50 fumble scenarios that could happen, and some of them didn't matter to me, and some of them did, and I don't know, they never worked on me. Goodnut also asked what happened in our Curse of Strahd campaign. Why is it so infamous? For those who don't know what he's referring to, I ran Curse of Strahd and it collapsed. It's probably the worst time I've ever had running a module. It was an absolutely god-awful experience, and there's a saying about nuclear reactors, is that a meltdown isn't when something goes wrong. A meltdown is when 12 things go wrong. And my Curse of Strahd game had a meltdown. There were a series of different factors, about 12 of them, that went horribly, horribly wrong and made it so that we could not enjoy ourselves. And that was awful. But I don't think I can get into it here. It would probably take me an hour to explain. But we are planning on making videos where we talk about games I've run, and we're going to talk about them with some of my players. And I think Curse of Strahd is the first one of these we're going to do. We're going to sit down, me and Ivar and Magnus, two of my players who played in that game, and we're going to tell the story of what happened in Curse of Strahd. And it's probably going to be specific to the Patreon, I think, or maybe the first episode goes up on the channel. I don't know. That might be fun. Neoret asks, how do I see the landscape of D&D changing, if at all, in the next 5 years? I think small games are going to get bigger. I think that's already started. Like Shadow Dark is doing incredibly well. Their new Western Marches Kickstarter is doing really well. I assume that's just a trend that's going to continue as D&D is going to shrink a bit. A lot of people seem to think D&D is going to die, and I don't buy that. They may well be right. I'm not a prophet. I don't actually know very much about the industry at all. But D&D is so gargantuan in a way that other RPGs aren't. In a way that goes into people's homes, normal people with normal jobs and hobbies and stuff. They know about D&D. They don't know about, my parents don't know about Pathfinder or Shadow Dark or any of those things. So when people enter the hobby, they're usually going to enter through D&D, which is probably why the game keeps getting more and more a broader tent, appealing to more people. Which is something we're going to talk about a little bit in this week's video. A video about Tiamat. Spoilers. Because it's Dragon Week, everybody. I hope you're paying attention. All the cool creators are uploading videos about dragons this week. Fairy asks, how do I inspire players to help them make interesting characters? I'm running a game for new players and I want to help them in every way I can. That's a great question. There was a Reddit post I remember seeing a while back, which was it was about giving, as a player, when you make your backstory, give the DM knives to stab you with. Hello. We're just getting started. I'm still on the Patreon questions. Everybody say hi to AB. Oh, lovely. We got Easter stuff. There's a chicken. Ah. Belt. What?
It's a ticket.
What kind of stream is this? But, hang on, I want to see knives for DM's backstory. Let me see if I can't find this. Knife theory. Flower things.
Candles. Tulip candles.
So, Fairy, I want to answer your question because it's a great question. There's a thing called knife theory that somebody posted about Reddit on Reddit 8 years ago. Oh my god. I'm gonna have to reach out to Jim Baby and ask if.
I'm showing them the Easter loot.
I see. I'm answering Fairy's question.
Oh, that's great, but I'm showing them Easter loot.
You gotta put it like there so the camera doesn't. Easter loot. This is what Easter eggs look like in Iceland. They're
big chocolate eggs.
Big chocolate eggs. Anything else? We should finish this before I start talking about knives again.
Some decorations. A big chicken.
Yeah, chicken.
An egg.
Egg. Hard.
Anna byrna Daði gleðilega páska.
Oh, it's got bunnies on it. Knife theory. 8 years ago, a user called Jim Baby on Reddit wrote a post called Knife Theory, and it's about how to make characters that have knives so the DM can stab you with those knives. At some point, we are going to make a video talking about this Reddit post because I think it's had a huge effect on the way I run D&D.
Where are we in the questions?
We're here. Carol asks, would I accept to DM on D&D in a castle if they invite me? Yes. Yes, absolutely.
He would love that.
Ginny D made a video about exactly that, and it was about her having a really hard time with it, and I thought, man, I would love to get to have a hard time with this. Jester86, this good nut again, asks...
There's a bigger one. I have a very distinct writing voice versus my in-person conversational voice. I've trained in improv and acting and have no problem interacting in character for my players. But while for some characters I slip easily and naturally into them at the table, otherwise I find sound much cooler and in character for stuff I write beforehand. That's okay when I'm prepping a monologue or the like, but then I flail at coming up with these character dialogues with the PCs. Similarly, I struggle describing scenery and atmosphere at the table, but when writing, the recaps come up with evocative, awesome descriptions, which only the third of my players who read the recaps will ever see. How do I merge my writing authorial voice with my performative improv voice? How can I bring my thoughtful, evocative side out at the table instead of just my bantering, quipping, improvisational style?
I want to start by saying there's nothing wrong with a bantering, quipping, improvisational style. Brennan Lee Mulligan runs games sort of in that kind of tone a lot of the time, and occasionally he'll have that tone, and then he'll switch gears. And when you do that as a DM, you're telling your players what matters. You're telling them, I'm vamping, I'm being casual, I'm being fun, and then suddenly I steal the attention back and I change my tone, and that works. Like, that's a part of DMing, and that's absolutely allowed.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with, like those things sounding different. Like sometimes Daði has particular passages of a session written out, and we can kind of tell when you've switched into reading, but that's not a bad thing. We're like, oh, he prepared this, he wants this to be like this.
This is the close-up.
Yeah.
That is telling us this is important.
Yeah. But a lot of DMing is improv and is just having to kind of
But if what you're hoping to get is making your casual improvisational voice sound more like your authoritative voice, and if that's what you want to do, then the best thing I think you can do is don't just make your players or ask them to read the recaps. You read them out loud, and then write things down that you can read out loud in character. And then practice. So let's say you have a character that you want to get a specific line of dialogue for. You can write that line of dialogue out. Then you vamp, and then you have that line of dialogue and you vamp after it. Try and make a bridge there. So as you go from your quippy banter style into your thoughtful style, you create a bridge that makes it so that it sounds like it's the same arc, basically. And the more you do that, the more it's going to be easier for you to eventually sort of get to improv in a dramatic tone, especially if you just speak a little slower. Sometimes people are so rushing when they're DMing. If you just slow down, often you're going to be able to think of whatever you were going to write down if you had more time.
All right. HW says, as you started building out such a large homebrew world, how did you decide where to go next after that initial campaign? Did you have a different location already in mind? Did you have a general overview of the world? And seek feedback from your players on what type of campaign or locale they'd be interested in next campaign? I.e., they thought the merchant island nation with the big fleet sounded cool. Pirates. Or thought the jungle continent would be interesting. Or were you fleshing out the world through the campaign itself, so you or they were like, oh yeah, that place we heard about that had a huge magical city that was requiring fealty from all the smaller city-states is definitely what we want to check out next.
Hey, hoo-hoo, thank you very much.
Thank you, hoo-hoo, for the €5. Nope, is that a pound? That's a euro.
No, it's a euro.
I don't know.
Where we make, welcome to Mystic Arts, where we make good guides and receive super chats for it. Thank you.
Thank you, hoo-hoo.
So I'm a bit of a dictator when it comes to where we're gonna play. My players don't really get to say we want to play here. I mean, they're allowed to say that whatever they want.
Well, when the campaign starts, you mean?
Yeah, like it's up to me to say the next campaign is set. Like when we made that dwarf adventure on stream, I decided I want to make an adventure in this dwarf place. I have an idea. I'm gonna do it. My players will definitely say things like, I wonder what is here, or I wonder why I've never been here, or if we go here, wonder what that's going to be like.
I've been totally requesting we end up in the plane of water or something so I can play a Triton.
Yep. Play in Atlantis.
Yes.
That's, like, players absolutely make those requests, but it's up to me for where my ideas take me. And when I get inspired, I tell them, I'm going to run this, do you want to play? And it's up to them whether or not they play, but the DM's job, I think, is to decide what game they're playing.
All right. Todd
Ooh, Wall Todd exists.
Oh yes, wall Todd is real. We didn't get a tripod. We got a wall Todd. Did you explain to them already what it is?
So
It's like a.
go on.
It's like a. Okay, so the where we film is in a corner. So whenever we put our tripod up, it's really awkward because we kind of have to shove it into this corner, and sometimes some of the legs are
Stand it
up, and it's just super awkward. So a tripod was not the answer. So Daði went downtown to our local like camera equipment store, and there's basically this like iron or metal rod
Plate.
with like a plate on the end, and so you drill it into the wall and it's stationary. But then we have some things like a plate and stuff that we can attach to it on the rod that has like different ways of turning and angling, so that we put the camera attached to that, and then we can kind of turn it however which way we want, but the whole thing is stationary.
So Wall Todd is a piece of device that's attached to the wall instead of a tripod, and we've been filming on that recently, and
Yes.
it's been a lot of fun, and it's helped us a whole bunch. But Todd asked the question.
TPKs, we hear about them happening. Is this because of player/PC choices, or because the DM has created a situation where the party has no options? How can the DM avoid a TPK situation but still provide an above-your-heads type of encounter? This might be too situational to discuss.
When I was mentioning earlier that for a nuclear reactor to have a meltdown, one thing doesn't go wrong. 12 things go wrong.
Correct.
And TPKs are a lot of the same sort of thing. It's entirely possible that the players enter a fight they thought was fine, and the DM starts a fight the DM thought was going to be fine, and then everyone was incorrect just because a DM is like beta testing the encounter on the players.
Yeah, so yes, it definitely can happen if the DM just underestimates how strong the creature is. But otherwise, at least in like my experience with all the fights, I mean, I've never been in a TPK. But like every fight that we get into in like our big campaigns, none of them have been like, I feel like we've been forced to do this fight, you know? Like it's not like, oh, Daði has made it so that we must fight this. And we had no other option except to go against the dragon. Like we had a session where we were level 2, level 2, and a red dragon, like an ancient red dragon, showed up. We did not fight it. It was a cool scene.
Yeah. Ivar bowed.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Ivar bowed, and that kind of amused it, I think, and it didn't kill all of us.
I think though, I was gonna say, like, I think TPKs are probably most common where everyone thinks it's gonna be fine. If a dragon shows up, players might realize they can run.
Yeah.
Or
yeah. I guess if the dragon had showed up and we're like, we get it.
Yeah.
We're fighting this. We'll be okay.
Yeah. Like I think all the TPKs I've ever done. Yeah, like most, like I've TPK'd with goblins more than I have with dragons, because usually it's everyone sitting here going, these are just a bunch of goblins. Like the first episode of Fantasy High, the only TPK in that entire season that could have happened was the one against the corn cuties, because they were all calling them corn cuties and making a bunch of fun of it, and then suddenly players were dying. That's usually when TPKs happen, I think.
No.
Oh. Eric.
We
can talk about this.
Sure. I mean, okay.
You're running a one shot with 4 to 5 D&D tubers. Who's playing and what's the one shot about? I don't know that we can talk too much about it, but what? So we were thinking about doing this. We ran half a session. It sort of fell through. I don't know if it's going to happen or not. If we're going to get another game in, but it would have been.
We were all like elves. It was kind of
It was about the prehistory of my world. It was kind of like Color of Magic or any of those books that are like about the early days of Fantasyland.
Yeah, we're basically like in a perfect society, and then something goes wrong, and we're like, oh my god, pain, But
AB was playing, and Val and Mike and Super Geek Mike.
Yeah.
Indestructible Boy.
Gobi.
Naigobi. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see if we get another game in and we could finish the one shot. That's gonna take us 2 shots. And then if we have time to edit it, we might be able to show you a game that I run, but that remains to be seen.
Yeah. Kel, question. I'm working with a family member as a co-DM to create a one-shot. The idea is just to quickly get experience running on the other side of the screen. Watching as much content as possible, but looking to see what is the best approach for a start and stop method of a one-shot module and then build off later. No story or world built, proper objective suited to it. Aware of the 5-room dungeon. Oh wow, okay, that's a lot of.
They're aware of the 5-room dungeon, but are there other alternatives we're not seeing or thinking?
Basically trying to find a structure for doing a one-shot. I mean, I don't think there's any, like, there is a standard structure, but you can make anything a one-shot. Like,
yeah. The thing about one shots, though, a lot of people are like, I'm gonna start DMing, and I'm gonna start by doing some one shots. One shots are really hard. They are. I honestly have a harder time running a one shot than I do most of my other games because you have to.
Like you have to quickly introduce the story and the players' characters to each other
and the world
and they have to like.
You have to motivate them to do the thing.
Like you have to motivate them to do the thing, but it also requires the players to kind of on a meta, like in a meta way, be like, I understand this is a one shot, so I should do whatever I need to do to get my character to be on board.
And then you gotta run something, and you gotta quickly trim it, because what's gonna happen is you're gonna run out of time. So you gotta cut stuff, so you gotta get good at knowing what to cut and what not to cut. And then you have to bring it to a satisfying conclusion. And you have to do it all in 3 to 4 hours. It's one of the hardest things you can do. But when you get a good one shot, it's a lot of fun. Everybody gets to have a lot of nobody has to like commit to a whole thing. I think a 5-room dungeon is a good structure for it. And remember, a 5-room dungeon doesn't have to be a dungeon. You can take it and string it out into a sequence. But as long as your one shot contains these are the 3 pillars of play. Remember, social, exploration, combat. You're gonna have a decent time. So if you sit down, you think of a one shot, you're like, how do I do this? Well, what are we fighting? What are we looking at? What are we exploring and discovering? And then can we talk to somebody? Can you do the DM? Can you go do a silly voice in the middle of this? If you get all 3 of those things, you're probably going to manage to have a pretty good time with it, provided you can motivate everyone to go do it.
Yeah.
If you're looking for some kind of story engine, think about like TV shows that have that, like Star Trek. If you're wanting to have a structure for doing lots of one-shots.
Yeah, you can always rip off like episodes of TV shows that you really like or whatever.
I also just mean the story engine of Star Trek is that we're on the Enterprise. And the Enterprise goes to places.
Yeah.
And once you have that premise, then the motivation becomes less of an issue.
Yeah. I was just saying if they're like really stuck, like if there's if you know your friends or your players don't watch this one TV show or this movie or whatever, you can always just steal and rename things.
Yep. I'm a thief.
Yeah. All right. York asks, what is a time your players worked out a creative, strange, funny, even frustrating way out of a situation that surprised you? Likewise, is there a similar type of story you were involved in as a player?
We were talking about this at the cabin. When I was reading through and trying to think of things, and I had to ask my players because I couldn't remember anything, and they pointed out a couple of fun ones. The one I vividly remember as soon as they said it. Can I?
Yeah.
Lift?
Yeah.
No. All right. Hang on. Cheer math.
There you go.
The one I vividly remember is that we were running an adventure in the Feywild, and they were going to rescue this king, and in order to rescue him, they needed to cast Wish.
Oh, yes, this was cool. Yeah.
They needed to cast Wish, and they found Baba Yaga's cauldron, and it could cast Wish, but Baba Yaga would know if anybody used her cauldron. So I had gotten a Baba Yaga stat block ready, and I was going to run a huge boss fight against the players with Baba Yaga, with mythic phases and fey magic. And then one of the players said,
we were all ready for a fight. Like, we'd had like a skirmish. Had we had any fights?
You'd had, I think it had a skirmish.
If anything, it was very little. We were like going into this being like, okay, it's the last session. We're gonna have a boss fight.
It wasn't the last. It was the penultimate session, and you were.
Yes.
We had the session booked next week.
Yeah. Because we were about to enter basically the boss lair.
Yeah.
We thought it was gonna end with like her showing up, and then we fight.
Because we'd be teasing her, and then we had a session booked next week.
Yeah.
So everyone's like, okay, Baba Yaga's been teased. Daði's probably gonna run Baba Yaga. This cauldron belongs to Baba Yaga. Oh my god, what's gonna happen? And then one of the players goes, I have this item I got from the last time we played. It can cast Wish. Let's not use the cauldron. Let's use my item. And they save the king. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that works. Let's cancel next week's session. And I sort of wrap things up, and the king's like, wow, thanks. And that was it. That kind of stuff has happened. There was another one that they mentioned, which I thought was funny, where a dragon was at like 4 hit points, and the wizard casts Chill Touch, which stops the dragon from healing, so it didn't get a mythic phase. So the dragon, instead of going to 0 and then up to 300 hit points, just died. And the boss fight ended unceremoniously, and everyone was like, "Wow!" That was funny.
Yeah. Saltwater Koi asks, my group is currently working through solving a mystery in a city they're visiting, and we've been stuck in a social encounter slog for quite a while now, to the point where most of us are itchy for some combat. Yeah. I want to incorporate something related to the story thread they're following, or that enhances the city itself, but I'm having a lot of trouble coming up with anything. How do you incorporate combat encounters in cities other than the usual sewers excursion? Any tips for finding inspiration or ideas for combat encounters in general?
Usual sewers excursion?
I've ever done a sewers excursion.
Saltwater Koi does them every day. It's just every time into the sewers. Two groups.
I fought cops I don't know how many times in your city.
You can always, if you have player characters at your game, they have broken the law.
We have.
Set the cops after them.
We either broken the law or like are in the process of doing it.
Yeah, send the cops after them. 2, if you have player characters in your game, they have coins in their pockets. Send thieves after them. And the way these two factions are presented, you can do in a million ways. The thief could try and grab a coin purse and then run away, and then they're chasing the thief. Thugs could come out of alleyways and hello, and with their bats, and they're gonna beat you up. They're gonna mug you. Cops could be members of the local law enforcement. They could be feds who are looking into specifically what the players are doing. They could be under investigation. They could be a part of some faction, paladins or clerics or something that are have other objections to the characters. Once you start doing the law and crime, you also have an excellent way to color your city. If your crime gang is a bunch of sixpencer wearing brutes in overalls, that's one kind of city. Another time we had one of these adventures in a murder mystery thing, and they kept splitting up and going everywhere. And I thought, I cannot keep having them split up. I have to do something about this. So I ambushed one of them with lizard folk, and one of the lizard folk turned into a crocodile and grabbed, and he called for the cops to get some help. The cops came in, the giant crocodile grabbed one of the cops and death rolled him, and it was like a whole brutal encounter. Yeah. It was a whole brutal encounter.
That was terrifying. And then Magnus was playing like the new monk and did so much damage.
New monk good. Yeah. Ollie's answering the question here, so we don't need to read Ollie's question.
Yeah.
Ollie, why didn't you ask a question?
Gasky says, in my campaign, the gods are dead or dying due to the lack of prayers or faith amongst the land. And one of my players wants to become a god to usher in a new age of faith. I don't plan on letting them play as a god. Good. But maybe end the campaign becoming one. Do you have any suggestions on what I can do to enable their quest or allow reaching godhood at the end?
You have to figure out, in your setting, what makes a god, and then let the players quest for it. I'm playing in a game right now where in Magnus's version of Odyssey of the Dragon Lords, and you okay?
Yeah, just poked myself in the ear.
And the Promethean flame exists, and the Promethean flame makes gods. So the question is, how do we get the Promethean flame? How does it work? Where is it? You could do something like that, where there's this thing that confers godhood. If it's about gathering followers, they have to do miracles, and then you can maybe make some kind of mechanic for how to do a miracle and how that works, and then let that sort of climb and escalate.
All right. Carol X asks, "Do you have any special mechanics or rules for races and chases in your game? I'm particularly interested in those where the competitors try to eliminate each other."
I don't think so.
We don't really do races. Like, you know, we've had the classic chasing someone through, you know, a city trying to catch up to a bad guy or whatever.
Yeah.
But like nothing from the second half of the question, which is like competitors trying to eliminate each other.
No, if it's not a combat encounter, like there will be a chase element, but it's initiative and they're trying to kill each other. Yeah, local teenagers are having a day.
It's really nice out.
Yeah.
Let them have it.
Damn kids. Not really. You might try something like skill challenges or look into things like that. I wish I had a better answer for you, but I sadly I do not.
Sleepy asks, "What came first, writing or DMing?"
I've been writing short films since I was a wee boy, since before I knew what Dungeons and Dragons was. Yeah, writing.
Xanathar865 says, "When it comes to forming my own GMing style, I find a lot of trial and error went into it. And I imagine you might have a similar story. Any particular lessons you've learned from your time as a GM that helped you figure out your specific game style?"
I spent a lot of time when I started a new campaign. I would change my style completely. So I thought, here's a new kind of style that I can do or something like that. Let's run a West Marches style game with no DM screen, and I roll everything in the open, and it's explicitly kill monsters and loot them. Let's do one with milestones. Let's do one with XP. Let's do one where I write poetry beforehand and work that into the game. Let's do Strixhaven, and they're always trying to romance the other students. Let's do domain management, and I'll try and change styles all the time, and that way I'm slowly learning what I like and what I don't like, and then eventually building my own style based on my opinions from trying other things.
All right. Saltwater Koi asks, "How are towns and cities considered in your resting rules? You mentioned defining safe havens as a base of operations, such as bastions. Do your players have to short rest 3 nights in a tavern to receive the effects of a long rest? Or are towns, cities, and other civilized areas considered safe havens?" So this was one of the earliest things that Daði said to us, like, just because you're in a tavern doesn't actually mean you're safe. So one of the earliest towns that we basically started the adventure in is technically not a safe haven yet for us, because it's kind of basically like on the border between these like warring factions, and basically could be attacked at any point by, you know, our enemies.
By definition, not safe.
Yeah. So yes, so it in most places, especially the first time we're there, most towns and things, we have to rest 3 times. Now, to be clear, our current campaign, basically the main setting is this giant forest that's uninhabited is the wrong word. It's kind of like wild and stuff like that. So there is a main city like Blackguard. We haven't gone there yet, but I assume if we went there, would that be a safe haven? Like,
I don't know.
Yeah.
It depends on the context of the game as well. Like if in your game, Saltwater Koi, you were asking the question about the fighting in cities earlier. If they're in a city where they might get ambushed in a tavern, then that doesn't sound like a safe haven to me. If they're in maybe a specific tavern is like a safe house and is safe. Like if you guys went to Blackguard, and you had a safe house that nobody knew about, or your enemies that would be in the city or whatever were unaware of, that sounds like a safe haven to me. But if you went to the local bar and people knew you were there, you might not feel so safe. It's about how the characters perceive themselves as well, and how safe they feel.
Yeah, isn't Soda Springs is the newest safe haven? Roachport isn't, right?
No, you don't have one in Roachport.
Yeah, we only have one safe haven. It's this tiny ass town that we saved, and it has like this really big watchtower. And specifically, when we rest in the watchtower,
Yeah,
that's when we are safe. So
it's a base. It's defendable against an army, right?
Yeah.
It would have to be blown up or something.
Yeah, and kind of in our main town, we're in the process of building, like this lodge, basically, like our kind of like guild headquarters. Once we've built that, Daði said it would be and rested there. Daði said it would become a safe haven because it's our little kind of fort basically that we've built. So
if you got something similar in Roachport, you could be safe there.
Yeah. So as a general rule, no, most places are not considered safe havens. Skir or Skyer, I assume it's Skir, maybe.
Skir.
Question: how to get the group going, especially when doing single session one shots with a limited time frame. It often takes quite some time until the story gets really going and everyone gets in the mood and everyone has a feeling of flowing excitement.
We were talking about this earlier
Yes,
with the one shots.
Excuse me. Starting with roll for initiative in a fight scene is no fix-it-for-all solution. I'm looking for alternatives. Yeah, I hope you heard what we were talking about just earlier about one-shot stuff.
I also think if you're doing one-shots, your premise needs to be really rock solid, and if you're trying to get the group going, you're gonna have to do a lot of intro work. Magnus was running a game for us this weekend when we were at the cabin. I told him a little bit about the cabin earlier. And the game started with us in the ship, and we had no memory.
It was such a good beginning.
It was so good. And he spent, I don't know, a long time
like
describing.
At least.
Yeah, but I just mean describing the room.
Oh, yes.
He would talk about the shape of the wood, the way it was bloated, the light coming through the broken porthole, the moonlight. He talked about the sounds and the creaking. He spent a lot of time rendering that part. And the next, once we were in the adventure and we opened the door and found another room, he said there was a room in here with a desk in it. That was it. So he did a lot of intro work to place us in the scene. I did the same thing when I was starting the cowboy adventure. I went to each character and I placed them in a scene, in a state of mind. I reiterated their stakes to them. I said, if you don't XYZ, then, placing all of those things front and center. And that's a lot of work. If you're able to go roll for initiative and then the fight's over and you have to go kill the big boss, you've skipped all that. But basically, I think your intro work needs to be heavy.
Yeah, I also think
your setup.
I also think one shots, like, there's a limit to how story intensive they can be. Like, especially if you're starting from something completely new.
Yeah.
Like, there's only so much information you can download into the brain of your players in such a short period of time without literally spending more than half the session just kind of info dumping on them. So again, that's why if you can just, if you get a good premise that isn't necessarily baked in, years of lore or whatever, and you land that beginning, and then you have, some interesting stuff for them to do, some stuff to fight, people to talk to, then it should be good for a one shot.
Yeah, but the point being, like, you got to do a bunch of work. It's kind of what it is. If you're, especially if it's a one shot, you really, you got to do a bunch.
Yeah. All right. Scarlight asks, what's one of the most memorable, magical, oh shit moments you've had at the table as a player or as a DM that you keep reminiscing about? We also
we talked about this. I mean, the chill touch.
Yeah, the chill touch thing. I want to mention the thing that happened
yesterday. Yeah.
We're fighting this very difficult homebrew monster that Daði made.
Yeah.
That basically, like, it had 2 claws, and, like, when it does, like, an attack and it can, like, grapple you. So it basically had 2 of us grappled, and once it has you grappled, they can do this other attack that does like insane amounts of damage and whatever. Basically, like 2 of us were down. I think a third one just went down. I was playing a warlock. I was out of spell.
TPK was like fully on the table.
Yes, TPK could have happened. I like had one turn where basically I missed all my shots, so I didn't do enough damage. But basically, Sashka, one of our players, she was playing a cleric. Was it the Arcana domain ability, or was it just
Channel Divinity?
Yeah. So she channeled. Was it Channel Divinity?
Yeah, she used Channel Divinity to cast Prayer of Healing, which gives you a short rest.
Was it not? Oh, is Divine Intervention now Channel Divinity?
No, it was Divine Intervention. Yeah.
So she used Divine Intervention, which lets you cast, what is it, any spell fifth level or lower as an action. So she cast Prayer of Healing, which now in the new 5e, right, it heals everyone 2d8 plus some stuff, and also gives you the benefit of a short rest, which means and that usually takes a 10-minute casting time. So she cast that as an action. So we all rolled all of our hit die. We all got healed. I was a warlock. I got all my spell slots back. Fighter got their action surge. Like, it was absolutely crazy. We went from like TPK to full health, and then we won.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
That was it. That was they won the fight.
That won. That saved the day.
The memorable moments that sort of change everything or throw me off. Of course, we were thinking about all these moments, and I just get to the realization that this is why I run the game. Like, I write professionally, I make up stuff for a living, and only in D&D can the characters surprise me, the author, in that way. Evil Idol asks, you mentioned in a previous live stream that a quick way to add a module in your campaign is to throw it in Obsidian and change the names. Is that what you do? And if not, do you have plans to make a video about how I would do it? No, that's basically what I do. I can copy paste the whole thing into Obsidian. I can do find and replace and change things, and I can link the stuff that I want to link. And going through a module like that will convert it until it becomes my own module, and that's basically how I run it. Hell asks, are there tools you think would be helpful at a DM table to run their games? Yes. What are some quality of life things you'd wish for? Too many creatures in a combat, better initiative tracker tool? This is a multi-part question.
Yeah. It's basically like, what tools do you think we should have? And then some quality of life stuff as a bonus.
I keep getting more and more excited by pen and paper tools. The ability to just write down names and put them on the DM screen for initiative, that does all the work I want from me. I use index cards to put magic items or special features on them and hand them to the players. What I would really want is index cards that are, instead of being these sort of bright neon colors, are more like these kind of beige colors, so that I can make them. This is a bunch of character sheets I printed out, and I use this beige paper just to look a little bit more like in-universe. I would love to have index cards in that color. I'm sure I can find them. I just haven't. I know it's a very boring answer, but I keep being more and more skeptical about tools. A lot of the time they end up bugging me more than I use them.
Hilt asks 2 questions. In your first video, you showed several minis. Do you and AB have a favorite? I gave Daði for his birthday a very cool mini, which I know I will fight at some point, but I don't know when. Was it a shadow?
It's Lord Soth flying a shadow dragon. It's I think it's a WizKids mini, and the shadow dragon, you can take Lord Soth off of the dragon and just have Lord Soth, or you can put him on and he's like got a sword out, and
the dragon has these like kind of like purple wispy see-through ends that I thought looked super cool.
At Salka's birthday, that was the only mini Yana commented on.
Yeah,
she was sitting on the couch and just going, "That's my favorite," and like pointed at it. Yeah. For me, it's my Invincible Overlord mini.
That one's so good. It's so good.
It was the CR30 end boss bad guy.
You had did such a good job painting it.
Yeah. Second favorite Tiamat. I love my big bosses.
Yeah. Regarding your first video, how many takes did it take you to get the result you wanted. So for the very first like 5 that we released, we didn't have the teleprompter.
We didn't have them for some of them.
Okay. For some of them, we didn't have the teleprompter, and those were painful to record, because it was like several hours because Daði just had to memorize everything, and if you got one word wrong or you weren't satisfied with it, you would keep redoing it, and we very quickly were like, we need a teleprompter.
We need a prompter. But we didn't do like a whole read through in one take. It would be like 3 takes of this line, 5 takes of that line.
Yeah, it would be like sentence by sentence sometimes.
And the prompter took down recording time from like 4 or 5 hours to about 20 to 30 minutes.
It was crazy. The teleprompter changed our lives.
Yep.
This question, Aiden asks, this question is partially inspired by the Mossy Antler's excellent most recent video on how to stop procrastinating.
Great video.
It was directed at DMs, but is also applicable in other aspects of life. And personally, I've noticed how it also echoed advice and strategies I've learned since getting my ADHD diagnosis, but that's another conversation. Now I'm curious, is there anything you've learned from D&D or TTRPGs in general, as a DM or as a player, that you've applied to other aspects of your life?
I'm going to just post a link to Grant's video here in chat.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to watch it now, because we're live, but as soon as we stop, you should go watch it. I see people typing questions in the members chat for the live stream questions. We'll get to everything on stream as soon as we're done with this list, so there's no need to go rush in there. I think a big thing I learned, especially as I started playing, is just compassion. for other people, because like when I'm DMing and people are on their phones or whatever, I used to get really hung up on that. I used to get really bothered by it, and they'd tell me, I have ADHD, I need to have something, fidget toy or whatever, and I'd be like, I wouldn't buy it. And then I sat down to play, and I have such paralyzing attention deficits that I was on my phone, and then I see my players on my phone, and I'm like, all right, well, I understand.
All right. Just Tom asks, have you heard of the idea of a social stat blocks? Wow, I can't talk. And to what extent do you use them, if at all?
I don't know what that is.
Me neither. Siru, a new member, thanks for joining.
Hi, Siru.
Asks, what inspired you to start doing videos? I think we've mentioned this before, but basically, I think I'm kind of a large part of it. Daði had been kind of rolling this idea around in his head that like you would honestly like to talk to other people, maybe like explain or do something, like get your knowledge out there.
It also comes down to Matt Colville basically stopped running the game videos. He sort of talked about the series being over.
Yeah.
And I thought we need people out there talking to new dungeon masters.
Yeah. There was like this niche and no one was doing it, and Daði was like, maybe I could do it. I don't know. And he kind of, kicked his feet for a while, and I was like, you should do it. Because I also wanted to have something that I make with him.
We're creative people. We're always making stuff, and none of it's together.
Yeah. So we wanted to make something together.
Yeah.
And then what got you hooked on role-playing?
This would have been the Yogg's Quest role-play game they did like ages ago. They were playing Pathfinder at the time, and it got me to immediately buy the books, and I wanted to sit down with my friends and figure it out, because they looked like they were having a lot of fun. And much later did I discover like Critical Role or any of those things, but just the idea of I don't know, just the idea of getting to be elves and stuff, like also Lord of the Rings had a huge effect on me, because that was a big sort of family. Suddenly I don't have any words. We sat down as a family and we watched one disc out of the Lord of the Rings box set at a time. We had them split on, so it was 6 nights of watching. First movie, first half, second movie, second half of the first movie. And for about 2 weeks, I lived in Lord of the Rings. I wanted to do it again.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
For me, it was just I've been playing video games since I was a kid. I think I've been a gamer longer than you have. And I really enjoyed just RPGs. Like Mass Effect 2 is one of my favorite games. So I was already into like, fantasy and role playing from a video game perspective. And then I got into I started listening to The Adventure Zone in college, which is a D&D podcast, and then went from there.
All right, we're done with the Discord. Let's move on to the live stream. If you're just joining us, you can type in the chat question : and then your question, and we will answer your question.
All right, we're gonna start scrolling through the chat.
The first ones will not have question : in front of them.
Yes.
Hey Peter. Hey Bachel.
Hello everyone. Literally, this is all from before. We just haven't scrolled at all. And it did the jump thing, so I'm gonna go to the top again. Hello, everyone saying hi to me.
No, it's hi to me still.
It says hi, Anna.
Oh, it's Anna. She's moderating.
Oh, Anna's modding. Thank you, Anna. 40k theme question from Bonia Carlo. What would you suggest to a DM, so like game mechanics or setting, for someone wanting to campaign in grim dark future where there's only war?
I'll admit, I don't know enough about 40k to properly answer this question. But here's what you do: you make, for me, you make a good guy faction, and then you keep making them do bad stuff, and the players will start asking themselves, "Am I the baddies?" That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
See if you can find some Tyranid stat blocks. Tyranids make good bad guys.
Excuse me. CJ Lawrence asks, how do you allow players to decide their next quest or adventure? We're about to do a filler episode in my own campaign where they choose a quest, but I'm wondering if there's a more efficient way. So typically, Daði, what it's felt like so far is that we kind of have some choices at any point in time. So kind of at the beginning, we went and found a town, and there were some quests that started out from that. But it's also very much player driven. Like we went to a town, we learned some stuff about the surrounding area. We had like a thing to solve, kind of a murder mystery. And then we did that and we were like, let's just go exploring. Like we want to go find out what's over there. We had heard, some rumor about like ghosts in the bay or whatever. So we went and walked over there, and then we found stuff, and it's a lot of it I have to say is really player driven. But the thing that Daði also tends to do is once we've decided on something, we'll like head in a direction, and then as we're walking, he'll kind of sprinkle in a little plot hook for something else, trying to like steer us away from the thing we're doing. That always makes us go like, do we have time to add this other thing also? Do we want to completely shift gears? Like,
Yeah. I also make sure to put in like kind of like filler episodes. I'll put in like as they're walking or going somewhere, just stick a random encounter in or some other stuff, so that while they're still figuring their stuff out, I can have some content ready, and you can just sort of add those on top, kind of modular. It doesn't have to be terribly complex. And a lot of the times I prep many different things and I just see where they go. And I prep them all very little. I only write down a handful of sentences, maybe a paragraph or two, and then I just trust that I'll figure it out on the table.
All right. That Rob even asks, how much did it cost to get Bob the World Builder to fly in Iceland?
All the money.
Yes.
All the money.
All of...
Bob's the most expensive dungeon tuber there is.
We don't have any money left. All of the Patreon money went to him.
Yeah. No, believe it or not, Bob filmed it in Philadelphia. That's it. Hang on.
That wasn't a question.
But some of the people are saying interesting things.
Yeah, but if we read literally every single thing, we'll never...
But I want to read all the things. Thanks, Matt.
Sumo TR asks, I know you don't really have this problem, but do you have any tips for when there's a bit of a gap in between sessions at a crucial point and players are forgetting whatever was happening? This does happen sometimes.
Yeah. If, like...
But we're also all obsessed with the game.
Yeah.
And we'll, like, frequently just kind of repeat it to each other, like, what was going on.
That's
especially if we know a session's coming up, we start talking to each other and being like, okay, what was happening? What were our characters thinking? How were we approaching the situation?
Yeah. If you can, as a part of your starting ritual, instead of doing the recap all by yourself, you can also try and get them to sort of summarize to each other what they were up to. If you can ask them a leading question, this is a little trick I've done that maybe I haven't told Davey about.
Whoa.
But as I'm writing the recap, I won't remember something, so I'll ask, who was it that got the last kill on the...
No, I know about this. It's
Yeah.
not like I know you do it, but I know this is a thing.
This is a trick.
A trick.
I go, well, who got the last kill on Wendigo last time? And somebody goes, it was me, but it was them. And then what was the thing with it? And then suddenly they're talking about the game because you've sort of put it in their brain. And now they're all talking about the game. And then, damn mic.
Sorry.
We're gonna get a new mic. We finally got paid out by Patreon, so we're gonna go to the tech store. We're gonna buy a good microphone.
Wahoo!
And we're gonna put everybody's name on it who's donated to the mic fund.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how you do it. You can sort of trick them into talking about it.
This is the same social stat blocks question that we already answered. We don't really know what it is.
Tom, I see you're in the Discord. If you post this into one of the chats, I'll take a look at it and I'll see if I can figure out what it is.
Ionit Do Me True asks, how do you prevent your players from constantly turning into giant apes and falling from the sky on all of your threats? Don't be at a level where you can turn into giant apes.
Put a monster in that's immune to giant ape damage, and then the giant ape will be pointless. And when the giant ape falls on the monster, the giant apes take all the falling damage, and the monster takes none of it. And then they go, maybe we should rethink our giant ape tactics.
That's great. Matt Perez asks, about to run my first hex crawl, was inspired by your vid. I'm doing it in the Feywild. If it's successful, I'd like to make my mortal plane like this. Do you think that will be jarring for players? Mortal plane like what?
Like a hex crawl?
Like the mortal plane's the hex crawl, and then Feywild is more loosey goosey.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
If that's what you're talking about, that sounds awesome.
We don't really know. Post more in the chat if we got that wrong.
And we'll answer it then. Meteor Mega Fan says, you only have 40,000 subs? Only?
That's a lot.
That's so many.
That's a lot.
I was driving to work the other day and I was thinking about the fact that we were approaching 40,000 and I just sort of stopped at a red light and I had to let that sink in because I live in a country where the biggest stadiums you can't fit 40,000 people into them. And that made me feel like a weird alien person. So that's insane.
David Moore asks, I know you've said you like dungeon crawls. Do you gamify dungeons? Example, almost like doing it in turns, in a similar way to gamifying exploration like hex crawl, or do you run it solely in the mind?
I've never really tried dungeon turns. I was reading about them in Justin Alexander's So You Want to Become a Game Master, and they seem interesting, but I've never really done them. I tend to just sort of do them in initiative, frankly, but they tend to be small enough that makes sense. I haven't really run a mega dungeon with, well, I have, but I haven't really done it with dungeon turns. So I would love to give that a go whenever I get back to running a big mega dungeon.
Jacob Martin says, Theater of the Mind combat tips for keeping track of everything? I'm thinking like enemy position, i.e. this one's in front of the paladin, this one's by the warlock. Hey, you just did that for a whole weekend.
Yeah, I did that for a whole weekend because we don't bring minis to the cowboy cabin. I have a card like this in front of me, and I draw a map on it, and then I draw arrows, and I scribble on it, and I just look down to figure it out. But here's the other secret. I also just let various things work.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're generally more lax with, like, precise distances. Usually you're like, oh, they're 90 feet away. Like, you kind of talk about distances in big chunks. And a lot of the time, if it's not overpowered or it doesn't totally break the encounter, you let us do things.
Yeah. So you wanted to cast Fireball last night.
Yeah.
And you were like, how many can I get in a range? And I just picked a number of dice I thought made sense, and I rolled them, and I was like, you can get 8 in Fireball range. And they all went, huh.
He hadn't drawn out, 8 goblins. He was just like, that makes sense, you can get 8.
Yeah.
So I think, that's the trick with Theater of the Mind, is if you're gonna make it loosey-goosey in terms of visual representation, because personally for me, I have a lot of trouble with Theater of the Mind.
I prefer comp out on a grid.
So I appreciate that like while I'm struggling to literally visualize it, you're letting us, you're being a bit more gentle in how
Like,
rigid things are.
basically, that also boils down to whenever you have to make an arbitrary decision, you should err on the side of the players.
Yeah.
You're going to be arbitrary. You might as well be arbitrary in their favor, and then you've got a million weird things you can do on your end to crank up the intensity.
Yeah. Rob Lake 666 asks, "Are we allowed to answer and openly chat with other people's questions in here?" Yep, go for it. You guys can, as long as everything's chill and fine, you can definitely be talking in chat. There's no, if you have an answer for someone, I think more information is usually just a better thing.
Yep. We're falling in love with you, Mr. Multi. Thanks for watching.
Peter Ratkovich. Hey, Daði, what do you think about Shadow Dark?
I haven't really looked at it, I'll be honest. The stuff that I've seen looks really dope. But I'm a 5e player, and I have a 5e world, and we've made a video talking about that, kind of how that affects the way I play, and I'm in no rush to go completely redefine all that, because I'm having a good time. But if I ever have free time to go try a new system, I think Shadow Dark is near the top of that list. Right now, I'm very excited about playing Draw Steel when it comes out, and immediately second, I think, Shadow Dark.
David Moore says, "I know you like hex crawls, but do you only recommend them for sandbox games, or are they good for more narrative-focused games as well?" Our game is super high on narrative and story, so you can make it work. It's a lot of work, but you can make it work.
It is sandbox, but
it can. Just because it's sandbox doesn't mean it can't also be narrative focused. Like those aren't exclusive.
It's a false dichotomy. I think you can definitely do both of those things. You can go to a random location and find the story there. Now everyone's saying hi to you.
Oh, hello. Hi, hello, hello.
Hello, hi, hello.
Hoodie. Thank you, Anna. It is my favorite hoodie. AB shows up, roll initiative. Mr. Multi asks, "I've had a few sessions in my homebrew campaign by now, and all my players are new to D&D.
Awesome.
Nice. I'm keeping everything a bit railroady for the start. Do you think this is a good idea?" Yes.
You can keep it on rails, definitely. Make sure that there's a path, but it's important to remember that the word railroad is when the players want to do something perfectly reasonable and you tell them that they can't. If you're just making sure that there is content to play and you're trying to make sure they play the content you have, that's absolutely fine. Just make sure that you're not stifling their choices, because ideally you get to a situation where they make decisions that make you inspired, and then you have this feedback loop where they are having fun and you're having fun because they're having fun. Once you get that going, it's going to get easier. A lot of DMs talk about burnout. They talk about, they go to the game, they prep so much and they do all these things, and the DMs and the players don't really seem to enjoy it or aren't into it. You got to remember that there's got to be this feedback loop where their fun becomes your fuel. And once you get that going, you should be having a lot of fun. But if you mean as opposed to running a sandbox where everything is possible, you have an adventure ready, absolutely, that is the way to go.
Scarlight gave us $30. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I just wanted to thank you both. I went through a year-long period of burnout, and this channel reminded me how magical the game can be and made me want to DM again. You're both inspiring, and your success is well-deserved. Thank you so much. It's fantastic that you're feeling up to DMing again. This stuff is supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be, giving you creative energy. So if we could give that to you, that's crazy and awesome.
Happy to help, and thank you so much. This goes right into the mic fund for the microphone. I also wanted to say, Siru, you asked what made us want to start making videos. Whenever somebody leaves a comment like that, that is fuel for me to make sure that the next video is better, and that I put in the work, because I remember when I was going through burnout myself, and I got excited to run the game again because I was watching stuff on the internet, and that helped me get excited. So if I'm able to do that for other people, that is an immense joy in my life, that I get to do this.
Sumo TR asks, "Any tips for getting back into the game that was at a critical point after a few months have passed IRL?" Which is a bit similar to
the other question, but yeah. If it's been months and months, can you do another series opener? like a TV show. When a TV show goes off air, the season premiere reminds us through the story who's important, what's going on, where are all the bad guys, everything like that. Can you make sure that you put that into your first game back? You go, here's this character, remember they were important. They're mentioning the thing, remember the thing was important. Use the session to galvanize the players back into wanting to go figure stuff out. And then the rest should sort of happen automatically.
03 Levazga?
Ivazgu?
Levazgu? Hi, any tips on how to deal with players using choke points effectively, especially when you don't have enemy spellcasters? This is around level 3 to 6. Why aren't there enemy spellcasters at level 3 to 6?
You can shove them. If the players are like staying somewhere and they're using choke points effectively, go grab a monster that has high strength and grab the character and put them where you want them to be. Or make a monster that can do that as a part of their attack. Or knock them prone. If they get knocked prone as part of an attack, like a wolf can knock you prone, then you can walk over their space.
Also,
don't accept their premise.
Something that can burrow? Like if they're blocking each other off, just a monster that hops into the ground?
Yep.
Pops up behind them? That's not magic, but there's things they can dig.
Sturges are a low CR monster that flies, and they have a proboscis that they stick into you and suck your blood. Can't choke point a Sturge.
Yeah. Make it annoying that they have picked one place to be and they don't move.
Ooh, Fireball. Actually, no spellcaster. A stick of dynamite.
Yes.
I love you too, Cody.
Milo Colvin. Question. What tips do you have for building a metropolis setting? I'm currently in the early stages of a 1900s fantasy / diesel punk campaign.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I'm trying to make one city feel like a whole setting.
Districts. Basically, I want to make a video about this, but it's the idea that a world is fractals. And I've started writing a script, but when you're in one continent and your players are in fantasy Europe, and there are castles and cathedrals, the next continent over, which is full of Vikings, seems like it's a monolith. It's all Vikings all the time. But if they're playing in Viking continent, you're actually going to develop regions. And this region is very Viking-y, and this one is like a farming region. This one here has mammoths, and this one there has... And you start, creating smaller details. But as soon as you go into one of those regions... You go, well, this mountain range in that region isn't as farmy as everything else. This town in that specific place isn't, or is more. And you start creating tiny fractals. And the more you zoom in, the more details you create. So when you go into a city, you say this city is 1900s diesel punk fantasy, and it's flappers and train stations and, whatever. But hang on, flappers and train stations. Okay, this district is the party district with all the cocktail dresses and the flappers. And this here is the train district, and next to it is the factories. And, next to this bit is the printing presses. And you start creating these fractals. And then you go into the district and you create the streets and the houses. And you continue to zoom in. And as you zoom, details have to become greater and greater. And you take from your sketch, if you remember that video, you take from your sketch and you render the details every time you zoom in. So there's always more to find. And this, by the way, is how your one setting that you made, let's say you're me and you made it 10 years ago, it is still creating new things and surprising you.
All right. Matthew Rockwell asks, any tips for running campaigns with large-scale warfare and kingdom ownership?
I'm running a game like that. Here's the thing. There are two answers to this question. One, if you want to get someone to answer this question for you, there's a book called Kingdoms in Warfare, or if you're playing Pathfinder, there's a Kingmaker document, and they have rules on how to make kingdoms and engage in warfare and stuff like that. And you can try those. I've tried those. I have my own opinions about what makes those games interesting, and I made my own system. And that system is not good. I'm not going to publish it anywhere because it is not usable. It requires very complex Excel spreadsheets that I am still making to this day. I spent the better part of a birthday party recently redesigning the spreadsheets because that's the kind of nerd I am.
Maybe one day we'll release it if you ever finish it.
Maybe. Or if it ever becomes fun.
Yeah.
But what you do is you create factions, and you make those factions be morally gray, and then you have a whole bunch of players political players, your D&D players can go engage with. You were playing in a campaign recently where there was a city council, and the city council was divided on how to resolve the succession crisis, and every faction on that council was, for some reason, bad, like evil, right? They have some wicked intentions because they're politicians. But every faction is also good because they are able to provide support in some number of ways. And the question to your players, this is the game of politics, is what are they willing to sacrifice in order to get their ends done? Who are they willing to talk to on someone else's terms in order to get what they need done? So, you're working with the settings church.
Yeah, I'm working with the church, like a dock master, the spy master.
Right.
Those are like kind of my big three.
Oh, and this one military leader.
Yeah, and there's one military leader who I mostly made friends with because he has power.
Right. But his
He's
power,
a bit scary.
his power, he can now lord over you.
Yes.
And that's kind of the bargain you had to make.
Yeah, he was like the key part of a vote. I needed him to make a vote, and now he knows that. He knows that I needed him, so he knows that I will continue to need him.
Once you get those kind of political, we need them, but we don't want to work with them, but we have to, but is there someone else? Then it starts to become really fun for the players to wonder, where are we going to place our alliances? And the same with, there was a dockmaster. He's like a free market libertarian capitalist. What do you think about that? You've got the spy master, who's got their own sort of network of spies and might be looking into you. What do you think about that?
Always know the spy master. They know more than you.
Yeah.
That was my approach. I'm like, listen, I know you're probably selling me out, but I'd rather...
Don't bang the tape.
I hate our microphone.
Yeah.
Anyways, yes. No Brainer asks, how the hell do you find people to play with IRL, especially in Iceland? I assume it's better in Reykjavik, but I live in a much smaller town, so I don't know how to find people here. Well...
Can you find people who are slightly nerdy and make them more nerdy?
Yes.
Can you find someone who's like a little into anime and hook them that way?
Or someone into RPG video games?
And get them...
Grab them?
You'd be surprised how many normal people end up having a lot of fun in RPGs once they let themselves be weird, because they were once children and they liked playing games, and you can give them that joy again if they can find the time.
Yeah. And if there's really no one around, you can always play online. Like, if you live in a tiny ass town, sometimes there just aren't people.
Mm-hmm.
And that sucks. And the internet.
Yeah. Yeah. Good answer.
Sinan Boyle asks, how do you add good plot/story into your campaign that's enjoyable for everyone at the table without railroading your players? I kind of object to the premise of this question, because you don't just add a good story into a campaign, because you're making the whole story with everyone at the table. The DM can put in a plot point. You can go, here's a problem. Here's a situation. And there's work. You can put work into creating an intriguing situation, or a complex situation, or something that can be approached from many different angles. But your players are going to have to come up with the solution, or their approach, or their story. What they do is the story.
It's also why we talk about narrative a lot of the times. When you hear writers talking about this stuff, they're talking about narrative, because narrative is a word we use to describe all the things that come together into the experience of a story, right? But story often means this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. And that is very difficult to do, basically impossible to do, unless you're doing a little bit of railroading. And I think you don't want to do that. What you want to do is you want to go and create a premise, which is a part of narrative, but it's not a story.
Yeah.
A premise is a setting with an open question to it. So the adventure we were playing, the premise was, this is the death of the West. and half of you are playing outlaw cowboys, and the other half are playing lawmen, and you're here to do the census. And now, how do the outlaws feel about the census?
Yeah.
How does the census takers feel about the outlaws?
Also, the story happens afterwards. The story is what has happened after you have done things. You look back and go, oh, so the story was these people showed up, you know, they had some discussions, but the government did end up helping them with this one thing. We're going to have to see if it actually cares about the town or not. Like, you don't thrust the story in there.
No, you thrust a question in there. When you want to get a good dialogue scene in, ask a question that is not a yes or no question. You were playing the governor.
Yes, I was a governor.
And I would ask you stuff like, why are you here? Why do you want to do a census? Why do you hate the West? And then you go, hang on, I don't hate the West, right? And you create these open-ended questions that you cannot answer yes or no, and then that extracts the story out of the characters, and it creates this fabric that adds on to the premise of what is going on, how do we feel about it. And you can do that with anything. It doesn't have to be the Death of the West. You can go, it's that 1900 city from earlier. We're going, how do the people who live here feel about the fact that this city is suddenly, tripling in size? Do they like it? Do they hate it? How do they feel about being in a metropolis? How do they feel about the government? How do they feel about all those dancers who aren't doing anything except dancing? I don't know. Whatever's going on.
Yeah. Leuchtturm? Leuchtturm?
You just go with gusto.
Leuchtturm 9.
Good.
I know it's like a notebook brand, I think. Maybe.
Maybe it's a name.
Maybe. Do you have any tips on how to run combats when the party has a ton of CC at their disposal? Legendary resistance.
Yeah. Legendary resistances.
Counterspell.
Dispel magic. Get the boss guy. Get him like a lieutenant who can help take care of some of this stuff.
Smaller things to absorb it without it affecting your main guy. More than one enemy.
Yeah. Flying. Usually CC doesn't have a lot of effect on flying.
Yeah. XGN the Floater asks, with what you said in mind about not letting your players dictate what you play, what are your thoughts on a group of players who are playing in a theme they know more about than the GM and are constantly telling the GM how things go in the lore?
Lore, probably.
Lore.
Well,
the players shouldn't be telling the DM constantly how to do things. That's just rude.
Yeah, that's probably true. I have a player at my table who owns horses, and whenever I describe a horse, I could see her rolling her eyes, and then, crucially, letting me cook. Same with whenever I'm describing a ship, one of my players is always just sitting there with a look on his face, going, "That's not how wind works."
Wait, who?
Ivar.
Oh.
He's always like, ships. He says ships and horses in Daði's world are all basically automatic cars. You get on the horse, you put it in drive, and then you go. Like
the horse just goes.
But importantly, they let me cook, and you kind of have to make sure your players are extending you the courtesy of letting you do your thing.
Yeah, and especially also if the DM's trying a new genre or a new setting or whatever, like they can research it, they can do whatever, but part of learning it is just playing it. So give the DM a break. You
can also invite the player to take part in that discussion. Go and ask them, how would a horse react to this, or how would you get I'm taking the example of the horse, but like, how would you make a horse go? And the horse person looks at me and goes, you do the horse thing. And I'm like, oh wow, I had no idea.
Blink-Eyed Bandit just gave us $10. Thank you so much. They said, your videos were the final nail in my coffin of affirmation, leading me to run my first campaign. Hey! 2 months later, we are still going strong. Thank you for all you guys do. That's awesome.
Fantastic.
Keep on going.
You got this. You don't need us.
Mad Milo 91 asks, did you make your world map all at once or combine sections over time?
I made one part of it on pencil and paper. I eventually put that into Photoshop. And then I ran, for 4 years, just like that, in that one group of islands. And then I took that Photoshop file. I extended it 3 times in both directions, and I drew sort of blob shapes. And eventually I started drawing those shapes in, drawing those continents in, and now I have everything in sort of low render detail. And every time I go run an adventure somewhere, I make the map and I render more and more detail. So it's kind of like fog of war. And then you zoom in, you get more and more detail every time, and that's how you build it out.
Hoo asks, "Hi, I've watched your video about hex crawling with 6 miles hexes.
3 miles.
They're 3 miles, first of all. How big are your campaign hex maps in general? Also, do you take into account the change of speed?
Like 40 feet would be 4 miles an hour. No.
No.
We have one player who's got 25-foot speed, and at some point somebody got exhaustion. Their speed was 15 feet. I don't worry about any of that. I basically treat that as combat speed, and when you're hex crawling, you have your hex crawl speed. That's determined by the hex type. Those things don't overlap at all mechanically. The hex map size we have is fairly big.
Yeah. Also, I want to say that this is Daði's first, like, big hex crawl. I don't know what he did in the past, but, like, the past campaigns haven't had hex crawls, so...
Not this kind of hex
yeah,
crawl,
not this kind of big size.
I run hex crawls and not like them until recently, basically.
Yeah. This is a new iteration.
Yeah. But the hex crawl is very big. It's I don't know, like... Hang on.
Are you gonna get the map?
I get the map. Those are the chicken.
Now I can take over the stream. Mwahaha. Check out this chicken. Shout out to my grandma. She gave me this chicken. My arms are so short and this camera is so far away. This is a chicken stream now. Go away, Daði.
Get out of here. This chicken's stealing my views. This is the hex map. This is how big it is. Hang on, the focus is all whacked.
Yeah, because you got your weird... Okay, so do you see these hexes? One of these is 3 miles.
They're about the size of my fingernail.
One of them is 3 miles wide. And look at how many gazillion hexes are. And look at the green stuff. That's how little we've explored.
But I'm intending to run this for years.
Yeah.
You don't need to make them this big, but I wanted to.
So, you know, it's hundreds of miles, I think.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I think it's
At least
100 or 200. Yeah.
Yeah. Elijah Dimmick.
Now, let me get back. Chair math.
Chair math. Elijah Dimmick asks, question, do you have any ways of making death or dropping to 0 HP meaningful without permadeath? My players and I have discussed it and decided we don't do permadeath. Yeah, we have lingering injuries.
Check out our video on homebrew rules for lingering injuries.
Yeah, so if you would die, basically Daði has a table of injuries and you can get injured. So, for example, my character is missing an eye because in one of the first solo sessions or like little mini group sessions we had,
blew up your eyeball.
She blew me up with inflict wounds, and I was level 1. 2.
I wouldn't blow up your eyeball at level 1.
Of course. And I died. But you know, I also wanted to have an eye patch, so.
Do you think starting a campaign for people that are new to D&D more railroady makes sense? This is the similar question you asked before, right?
Yeah. Brayden also asks, any plans to hop in on the Dragon Week going on right now? We do have plans. Stay tuned. It's a very cool video.
A lot of work.
Yes. Jonathan Diaz watching from Honduras. Thank you. What are the best free resources for TTRPGs?
All the rules are free online for D&D. You can go check them out. Kobold Fight Club is free and is pretty cool.
There's the video we did about like some map making generators and stuff like that. That's all free.
Oh, Wadabow. Yeah, Wadabow.
Wadabow.
Watabu. Go check them out there. They will absolutely make your life easier.
Yes.
Also, social media. You can just Google and you'll get art and maps and all those things. When you find people you like, you can go back them on Patreon or whatever and make sure that they get money.
Yeah. Ushnik Majumdar says, gonna start running Out of the Abyss. Have you run it? If so, any tips? Love your channel, man. Keep it up.
I've played in it, and I had a lot of fun. The main thing you have to be careful of is that adventure starts with the party having 12 NPCs or something. Kill them. You gotta kill those NPCs. You gotta cut the ones that are boring, kill the ones that are not fun for long periods, and then use stool to make all your players do what you want, because they will love stool.
Isaiah Wegwitz says, do you ever have times where you're feeling creatively empty when you need to be prepping? If so, how do you overcome it?
Check out our video on writer's block. We talk about 7 different methods I use to immediately overcome writer's block, and one of them is just looking through the monster manual. It's usually enough for me to get going. Otherwise, I go watch TV or Dungeon Tube. That's the farty speaker.
Yeah.
Hang on. What? Sometimes they're speaker farts. Hang on.
That was the light.
That was the light.
I emerge out of the darkness.
Wow.
Otto Lenner asks, can you tell us about your world, either here on the stream or in its own video? And what are you especially proud of?
We have a plan to talk about the world a little bit. We're gonna. I think the best way to do it is by talking about the adventures we've run, and building out context from there.
Yeah, I think we have plans. The world is big. There's so much we could talk about. He loves Blackguard, which is his big kind of Victorian-ish city.
City, yeah. Mega city.
Yeah.
I might also just go live at some point and talk about Atroxia, which is kind of where I'm running most of my stuff these days.
Yeah.
Other than that, I also talk about it a bit in the Making an Adventure video, but we will eventually do streams talking about adventures.
Ionit Dumitru says, what do you think about emotional support NPCs? Do your players kidnap Boblin the Goblin?
Yeah, I love giving my players emotional support NPCs. I gave you a fairy dragon. That was a lot of fun.
Yes, I love my fairy dragon. And then they nerfed it. They nerfed it in the new edition. The ridiculously overpowered breath, which needs a save to get a save, got nerfed.
Yeah.
It was crazy. Vanir Seraph says, favorite non-D&D system?
Call of Cthulhu. I love Eldritch horror. I love when my character is about to die horribly. We were playing a horror session in the cabin, and some really gross horror stuff was happening, and every player was making this face. I was sitting there with a big grin on my face going, I cannot wait to die horribly.
I do bad with body horror.
Yeah, I love it.
G4...
Call of Cthulhu is awesome. Yeah, sorry.
You're good. G4LVES says, I'm currently GMing a modified version of Powered by the Apocalypse. Have you heard of it?
Yes.
Do you have an opinion on it?
No, I haven't read it. A couple of friends of mine were playing it recently. It sounds cool.
Harrison Edwards says, do you have a favorite monster book that isn't the monster manual from 2014 or 2024? I've been loving the Ruins of Symbarum Bestiary and the Grim Hollow Monsters Grimoire for some darker flavored monsters.
The Flea Mortals book is a lot of fun. I also just like the Cobalt Press Creature Codex and Tome of Beasts 1, 2, and 3. They're fairly like standard D&D monsters. They're not terribly. They're not the Cobalt Press ones are not like terribly intricately designed stat blocks. Many of them, there's some of them are very basic and standard, but I find them very inspiring. And a lot of the times I'll see an entry and I'll want to run the monster, and I'll end up making a lot of my own stuff. I homebrew a bunch, but yeah.
This isn't really a question, so I'm just gonna skip over it. Question from Endless Loop: how did you two meet? No worries if too private. We met at work.
Yeah.
I got an internship at the place he works. We were friends first, and then we started dating.
Yeah, we watched TV shows together a lot.
Yes, we bonded a lot over West Wing. It's kind of the first thing we did together. We would watch West Wing on Discord.
Yeah. Make sure
Jeremy Little. Question. As an American, is there any professional projects y'all have worked on we would have heard of?
We're
So, he is, yes, as him, he the American. That is currently working on a game
yes.
and will be able to share stuff, I think,
In the future,
one
day. Basically, I work on a project that I'm not really allowed to talk about, and the moment I'm allowed to talk about it, I will not stop talking about it.
Yeah.
But up until then, I'm sorry to say that I have to keep my lips a bit sealed.
Yeah, I worked on that too, so you'll find out about it later. I also currently work at another company in Iceland, and when that game comes out, we'll probably talk about it then too. So yeah. Also, just don't want to share too much because internet.
Yes, the Discord is for patrons and members only. It's available for all tiers, and it gets you access to this lovely community we've got growing here.
Yes. Alrighty. Yeah, Discord patrons and YouTube members.
Yep.
Almost Cotton says, "What's your favorite class to play for both?" I feel like this is just what happens to the class that you play first. But the first class I ever played was Warlock, and I got to play the updated Warlock over the weekend, and I love it. I love the Warlock. Listen. They made they basically gave it like arcane recovery, like wizard. So once a day, once per long rest, you can recover what is it, like half your
you get a spell slot.
Spell slots or two, whatever. You get spell slots back. So I basically had 5 spell slots per day at 5th level.
Yeah.
That come back on a short rest. So I was just chucking fireballs. I was rolling, what was it, like 10d6?
Yeah, because it was 5th level fireball.
And now they get 6, 7, 8, 9. Maybe they had that before. I don't remember. But it just. And then Druid's a close second.
My favorite class is the Warlord, available now on the Mystic. No, I'm kidding. No, it's the Wizard. I love the Wizard. I'm a big fan of having a huge spell list of things that I can go look at, because I'm a dungeon master, and I have this thing where my brain doesn't stop. So as soon as we start playing, I'm happiest if I can go open up a huge spell list and I can look at it and constantly be thinking, what is the best thing I can do right now? And I can change it every turn. That's for me way more fun than anything else, really.
Scarlight asks, how do you usually go about developing or fleshing out initial ideas for a new campaign setting from scratch? Well, the thing is, you haven't really made like a new campaign setting in a while. Like everything is set in Orathon.
But Orathon is so many things. I'm always kind of starting a new setting. But the same answer it's the same answer for adventures. I have an idea that I think I'm excited about, and that usually comes from a movie scene I watched or a premise or something. Like with the Venkara adventure we did on stream, I was thinking I really want to do a special forces thing. I'd been playing, I think, Call of Duty, and I was like, okay, can I do this in D&D? I'm sure I can. It can't be that hard. And then the dwarves from Total War Warhammer was a different idea that I wanted to do, and then I went, what if these two ideas are the same idea? And then just by doing that, I ask myself questions. What are the dwarves like? Where are they? Why are the special forces guys here? Who sent them? What are they up to? And you just ask questions. You basically interrogate your idea. Your idea is this little blob of fuzzy cloud, and you have to go, why do I find this interesting? What are they doing? How does it stop? Where does it go next? What happens? And the same thing happens in a writer's room. Whenever somebody pitches a thing, immediately everyone tries to poke holes in it. And by answering the hole poking, you get to figure out what it is that excites you about it.
G4LVS says, what's your opinion and suggestion for gimmick fights? Fights where the players need to think outside the box a bit because the baddies have something special running for them.
That's the puzzle, actually.
Yeah, it's the puzzle, actually.
A lot of fun.
We made a video about different, combat scenarios. So, it's kind of his opinion is different combat's good.
Yep. Mix it up. Do something different. D&D is fundamentally a combat engine. A lot of people object when I say that because they're like there are better combat engines, but that's not what I said. I said that D&D is doing combat. That is what the system is, and when you start just playing around with it, that's when really most of the fun happens. When you figure out ways to make things into fights, or figure out ways to make fights into not fights, and now you're in this fun design space where everything is sort of explosively creative and bouncing off ideas that you have. Hey, Mossy Antler.
Prince Chicken Hair, cool name, says, I really need help knowing how to deal with spells like Tiny Hut and Magnificent Mansion. By the time these spells arrive, do I need to stop trying to run resource management games? Few baddies counter. It's probably supposed to be like few baddies can counter this. You know, how do you deal with these kind of instant safe zones?
I mean, at a certain level, the players start having resources you can do very little about. But you can play around with them. For one, Tiny Hut is like Magnificent Mansion is 8th level. By the time the players are that high level, they're bad guys. The bad guys should be able to go like transcend time and space. At that point, you kind of do whatever you want. I have once. I usually don't do this. I let them have Magnificent Mansion be their own safe area. But I have once had a bad guy traverse time and space to go attack them in the Magnificent Mansion. That was fun. Tiny Hut is opaque. It has color to it. It's a bubble which blocks light. It's not invisible. It's not extraplanar. So a bad guy could walk up to the tiny hut, see it, and then go get his buddies, and then come back with a huge amount of buddies, and they're just sitting there, and slowly more bad guys show up until they pounce on the party inside the bubble. You can punish these things a little so that the players know that we have to be careful about where and when and how we use it, and it's not an automatic win.
Isaiah Wegwitz asks, where do you start your world building? I would love to make a world as big and grand as yours, but I'm intimidated and I'm not sure where to start.
I started with a town and a tomb in the mountains, and the players went into the tomb and did a dungeon crawl. And then later on, they went to the town, and I had to make something there. And then they went to the next big city, and I had to make that up. And as they go, I build the world around them. And at first, it wasn't as big, right? It just kept growing. It kind of needs to be like a garden that you tend to, and you trim the things that don't make sense, and you add things that excite you, and it grows and grows and grows and becomes more and more exciting. Hey, John.
Oh, John says congrats. Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Miss you, John. He's not dead. Just miss him. Matthew Holivas. I'm sorry if I'm saying literally everyone's name wrong.
How dare you?
Yeah. I'm chronically running underwhelming fights, but I'm never sure how to beef them up besides just deal more damage, lol. Do you have balancing math for your encounters?
We talked about a video. We made a video called CR is broken or boring or something. Let's fix it. And in that, we talk about various dials you can play with. And this is one of those things where if you're running a fight and you notice that it's not hitting the spot, you can go add reinforcements. You can go add a complication, and you can sort of layer these things on top until you can feel the fight tense up. And as an example, in the cabin we were playing against this monster, it had a mythic phase. I hadn't decided whether or not I was going to do a mythic phase. Spoilers for my players. I'm sorry.
Oh my god.
But what I did is I sort of just added it. I was like, if it ends now, everyone goes, huh? Oh, it
wasn't that bad.
It wasn't that bad, but it was scary. But
I used my spell slots.
Yeah, but if I had a mythic phase, everyone goes, oh my god, and then they keep going, we're gonna lose, right? Players want to be like John McClane, treading on glass and winning the whole time. If you can give them that experience, you're going to be doing well. So if the fight's underwhelming, you're allowed to change it once it starts. You're not a game designer. The players are your beta testers.
The players are betas. I'm included in that. I'm a player.
The players are your beta testers. You can beef up the encounter. You can decide that a monster has a mythic phase. You can decide that reinforcements show up. You can decide that there are more bad guys, or that they have immunities, or whatever. Keep picking on my nose. I apologize.
Itchy?
Yeah.
Scarlight asks another question. Do you have thoughts or strong opinions on a sandbox world versus giving the players a clear, objective approach to running campaigns?
You can do both. You can, like in the big sandbox we have, there are loads of things that you have to do,
Yes.
but the sandbox is how you do them.
Yes.
You can do, you're here to, like, in the sandbox Hexcrawl adventure, your goal is to make this place a state. How do you do that? Well, first of all, we have to figure out what it is, right?
We're like, who is here? What is going on?
Where do you...
Where are we? Adrian Doyne Ditmus. I have a feeling I said that wrong. Do you have...
Just go, like...
I'm sorry.
It's like a roundabout.
Adrian says, do you have any favorite adventure tropes to run within cities? Murder mystery?
Yeah.
He loves that one.
Yeah.
Heist? Love the videos. Keep up the great work.
Thanks, Adrian. Murder mysteries are a lot of fun. Heists are great. The murder mystery is just so good. A murder mystery is fantastic for cities because it makes you have to go to many places. Suddenly apartments and streets and houses and guilds and all these things become so real. They're not just lore you have on a sheet somewhere. You just say the guild master knows the murder victim. Or, the guild master talked to, and now you have to go talk to the guild master and go engage. A heist is good, but it's limited to one area. A mystery of some kind involves bouncing around. You did a big political thing, that same idea is present. I create all the factions, and then I say, you have to go talk to these factions, and now you're walking around the city talking to people, and that renders out the details way more. So, I'm sorry about the nose, but so you build these things out.
Do you want to go get a tissue?
No.
Kajatan asks, how do you deal when you're burnt out from playing?
As opposed to running?
I don't know. I never get burnt out.
If you mean like running, then go watch something that makes you wanna go run. And also, if you're routinely getting burnt out, it's probably because your players aren't giving you enough back. If you're sitting there and you make up all the adventures and all the plot and premise, and you're putting it out and you're putting it in front of your players and they're not interested, there really is no cure for it. That's not fun. You need to make sure that your players are giving you something that you like get fuel from. Their fun has to become your fuel. And once you start doing that, you start having a more fun time with it. And sometimes that means giving the players what they want. If they're not having fun, that might be something you can fix. Maybe it's not, by the way. But if it is, you can go you can go make sure that they're giving you stuff back. When you create a premise, you ask them questions and you get to listen to them and then take notes. I don't necessarily mean literally, just listen and pay attention. You might find that what they're talking about is interesting to you, and then you play into it. And then when they get excited, let yourself know you made them that excited. Give yourself a pat on the back. Tell yourself, hey, I did a good job today, and go play with that.
Astrid Warhol asks, do you have any tips for when you don't really know what to do with a character backstory?
Oh, God. I feel so guilty. Sometimes I ignore them for ages. I try and make sure that when I have something I can do with it, that I go run with it. Or another thing, if I don't know what I'm doing with a backstory, but I like the pitch of a character or the premise of who they are as a person or what they want, I make that into an adventure instead. Like, I don't know how to deal with the fact that this person had, like in Everlasting, Salka came in with this great backstory, and I don't have anything for it right now, so I made sure to make it like a ghost that looms over her, and she deals with the echoes of it. But then I try and make sure I give her new things to be excited about, and then her character is heading at these things away from her backstory. Eventually, I'll figure out what to do with her backstory, and then I'll put her backstory in front of her. But right now, I'm trying to make sure that she's excited about what's next, instead of just what happened in the past.
Yeah. Peter Rakovich asks, what are your thoughts on players controlling multiple characters during a campaign? Switching between their stories like jumping between different plot lines in a TV series. I would never want to do this.
I know about a friend of mine did this, and they had a lot of fun. I would rather run different campaigns and switch between them and have connecting storylines to them, and I do that all the time. but I find it a little scary. Like I tried this once with everybody made 3 character sheets, and we just ended up liking one group of characters more than all the others, and then we just played regular campaign after that.
G4LVS questions keep coming. An encounter design kind of hard countered one of my players' characters.
Are you skipping the one where this guy calls me the Matt Colville of D&D 2024?
Yes, because it's not a real question.
Jeremy, that's incredibly kind, and I don't think that's true. But sorry, G4.
An encounter design kind of hard countered one of my players' characters, not on purpose, and he was pretty bummed about it. How would you handle it moving forward? Sometimes it just happens.
Yeah.
You're not going to be great at every single encounter.
I tell my players a lot of the time, I don't know how your characters work. I don't. I really don't. Like,
this is the secret.
This is the secret. They'll go, I cast this spell, and I'll go, what am I doing? What do I do now? And they go, oh, you have to make a dex save. And I'm like, well, what's the DC? And I'm like, 15. And I'm like, okay. I fail. What happens?
Hey, don't slam the table.
Sorry. I go, I fail. What happens? And they go, this happens. And I go, sweet, awesome. But this also means that when I hard counter them, they go, hey, now I can't use any of my abilities. And I go, wow, sorry. Like, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the mythic phase of the thing we fought this weekend became immune to fire, and I was a fiend warlock, so like 90% of what I did was fire, so it was just ye old Eldritch Blast.
Very cowboy.
Yes.
Like, yeah, just you run your stuff, they run their stuff. And if you really want to do something for that player, you can go figure out what the opposite of hard countering them is and give them a fight where they kick ass.
Like letting me fireball 8 chupacabras.
Yeah.
Liam Gilligan says, do you have any guidance on how to come up with a cast of NPCs for a political or social game? I have a truly despicable villain, but no ideas for the other characters.
I want to make a video about this, but what I do is I create, I'm into politics, but if you can't tell. What I do is I create a political compass. And you create a grid. If you've seen a political compass, it's got the conservative, socialist, authoritarian, libertarian, and you could chart people on it. Well, you could do that with any axes. You can say pro-guilds, pro-emperor. You could say anti-war, pro-war. And then you could take a faction or a person and put them on that grid. And as you do, you create these quadrants of alliances that could exist. And then you can chart those groups together, and you can say, this is this political alliance, and this is that political alliance. And you could play these factions off of each other. And you also will notice gaps. You'll see that I have this pro-guild one, this pro-emperor one, who's anti-war and anti-war. But I'm missing a pro-emperor, pro-war faction. Who is that? And you can ask yourself those questions.
Cool.
Grant made a video about the semiotic square, which is kind of similar to this.
Prince Chicken Hair, once again. How fast does your table move through a round of combat?
Like 20 minutes. Yeah. Maybe longer.
It depends.
We try and
You try to keep it moving.
Yeah. When there's a silence, I go, what's going on?
There's 7 of us.
Yeah. When people are rolling their attacks and damage independently, I tell them to roll it together.
Yeah, basically ever since I joined this group, I always roll damage and the D20 at the same time.
Yeah.
Because it just saves time. Instead of going, oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hey, don't slam the table.
You're annoying.
Yes, I am. I create these. I love you. I create these dice pools for a monster. So it's got, it's making a claw attack with advantage, and it's got Bane on it, and it does 2d8 slashing and 1d10 necrotic. I grab all those dice and I go and roll them, and then this happens, right? And I can just spit out the result.
Yes. Tony asks, any recommendations or help for role-playing centuries-old dragons? I find them incredibly difficult to roleplay, even when planning ahead for my players' questions. 1,000 years of knowledge is hard to roleplay.
Wow, I don't know. I don't know that I have an answer to that one. You can always make them like ambivalent to the player characters. You're not necessarily role-playing 1,000 years of knowledge available at the player's fingertips. you're role playing 1,000 Years of Knowledge who doesn't really, care about the players or has, opinions on, doesn't really have an opinion on them or anything and thinks they're above them. You know, how does a fly know how smart you are? It just doesn't.
Oh. All right. It has been 2 hours. I think maybe we can go for another half hour.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. We're not going forever, but we're not done yet. Alan Tang Chun asks, my DM uses, what is TOM? My DM uses TOM and is very homebrew and narrative focused, but combat is frequently random and unfair. Lots of stuns, surprise rounds, etc. Not sure how to deal with this. I have spoken to them.
If you're not having fun, you don't have to play in that game. If you're willing to live with it, I'll live with it.
Yeah. If you brought it up and it doesn't seem like they're gonna change what they're doing because that's how they want to run their game, then maybe you just gotta find a different one.
Yeah.
William Nibarger.
Hang on, I also want to say,
Okay.
Alan, you can also run the game and do the game. Like, can you run a game for your DM that shows them what you think is cool? And can you convince them by running an awesome game?
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
William Nibarger. Any advice on running mystery quests? A friend specifically asked to incorporate that into my game, I assume, and I'm struggling to figure out how to make it compelling.
You gotta make sure that basically two things I think it boils down to. You gotta make sure that there's always something to learn, because spinning the wheels isn't fun. So if they're not learning some big piece every session, it's gonna suck. Which means if it's gonna take more than one session, there need to be layers of complexity. And those layers need to go on for a bit. And then you need to have release valves for they're spinning their wheels. If you think about like a James Bond movie or any sort of pulp adventure movie like Hitchcock or whatever, when the investigator runs into a corner and doesn't know what to do next, the bad guys try and kill the investigator because they dared investigate. And then the bad guys have shown themselves. And they're like, oh, the bad guys are this kind of group. You sort of bake that release valve in. James Bond shows up, says everybody, tells him, hey, I'm James Bond, I'm a spy. And eventually the anti-spies show up and they try and shoot him. And he's like, these are the bad guys. They don't want me here, right? And then he goes and talks to their boss. That's how that works. So you make sure there's always something to learn every session as they sort of continue to investigate.
Clark Milstead, what kind of games do you recommend to encourage roleplay? I do a lot of improv outside of D&D, so I'm comfortable roleplaying, but I have a hard time encouraging my players to speak in character. We don't play games to encourage roleplay, we just roleplay.
Can you... Yeah, and we could try that, asking them a question to coax answers out of them, like we were talking about earlier. We can, who is that character? Interrogate them. Have somebody ask questions who force them to answer and think about things and develop opinions on.
Yeah. And there's also the classic, just if you get really into character, if you do like a goofy voice, if you kind of go really far, it's showing your table what, you're okay with, what everyone should be okay with. It's a safe space. People can role play or do a funny voice or do a spooky voice or whatever.
And you can do like anything can inspire roleplay. And one of these cowboy adventures, we brought out poker chips and cards, and we just played a game of poker, but we did it in character. And I made sure as the DM that I had loads of questions I could ask that the players would have to think about. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, but ultimately, also there's nothing you can do to make them do it. No. It's just eventually they'll get there or not. Bearcat18. Thoughts on integrating PC personal side quests motivations alongside an overarching world plot? Good. Fun.
Do it. Can the side quests relate to things that relate to the plot? Like, you don't need to make sure that AB's character's dad doesn't secretly need to work for the bad guy.
What?
But what you can do is you can say he knows somebody who did a thing with the bad guy, and now we have to go talk to AB's character's dad. And now we have a scene with that dad, and he can have a scene with you going, hey, you're my daughter and you're the best. Or
I hate you, Dad.
Okay.
You're the worst.
Terrible. Bad daughter. Or he can go, I'm a bad dad, and I have a favorite son, and his name is Boromir, and you're not it.
I knew you always hated me, Dad.
And then they have to go, fix AB's relationship with her dad in order to get the dad to tell them about the character who's related to the main plot, right? You create these nesting things that go into the backstory, pause there, take a little scene, and then you eject back out.
Nathan Bowen asks, do you have a prep process to make role-playing / improving your NPCs easier? Oh, improving. Probably not improving.
Improving
your NPCs.
I try and think of them as characters from movies or books or something that I like. And I go, okay, this guy is basically Tywin. How would Tywin respond? Or I go, this guy is Tywin but French. How would French Tywin respond? The same way, but with red wine. I try and get these sort of shortcuts because they don't know how bad my Tywin Lannister impression is. They just know I'm doing a voice. So I think of I'm Tywin. I do this. You were dealing with a Baron recently who was just my impression of Kendall from Succession.
Oh my god, the moment I was like, why is this voice so annoying? So familiar. It's Kendall!
It's Kendall from Succession. Instant hate. It was fast.
He was such a little bitch. Suraraj Sen asks, hey guys, I'm running a one-shot at a convention this weekend. A little worried about the fact that I won't have lights or music to set the mood there. Any tips?
I've never done that. That's terrifying.
All the chicken comments.
Hail chicken.
Yeah.
All hail Amma.
All hail Amma.
That's terrifying with the convention. I don't know. I really, that scares me. I'm sorry. I wish you're gonna be fine. Don't let my fear be your fear. You'll be all right. Lots of hexes.
Holy Ghost says, when do your PCs actually suffer permanent death instead of receiving a lingering injury? Is it just down to vibe?
Right now, they're basically going through the tutorial levels of D&D, the first 3 levels. At some point, the tutorial's going to stop, and someone's going to die.
Yeah, I figured it's like, okay, we get our subclass, we get to do a little thing,
yeah.
But he's not going to let us be, invincible forever. There's going to be a moment where we die, and we die.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how to communicate that moment to you guys yet. I haven't figured out when I'm going to do that.
No. I mean, we all know that we're approaching that kind of point of no return.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta do another scrolly. Okay, chicken.
Lots of hexes.
Yes.
Question: do you have a self-made homebrew rules?
I would like to recommend Mothership.
Thanks. I'm playing like 3 or 4 games a week, so I don't really have time for a new game right now. Shout out to Gunman.
The yes. Warlord is fired.
Hey!
Thank you, Lou Dallacosta.
Thanks. We have a lot of fun with that class. I'm playing it in Odyssey. I've been playing it now for 50 sessions. I love it. I don't get to hit with my sword much, but I get to feel like an awesome commander. Available now on the Patreon.
Sour Dragon asks, hiya, love your work. Any tricks for doing shops? Do you just list the stock or delve into the individuals that run them?
Sometimes I just say you guys can buy stuff from the Player's Handbook. Sometimes if it's like a magic store, I roll on a table and I just tell you these things are in here, or I let you roll on the table.
Yeah, like kind of in our kind of home-based town at the moment, there's kind of a general store, and that's where we can buy most kind of normal everyday stuff from the equipment list. So like when we go in there, that is like, you can buy most things from the Player's Handbook. Yep. He doesn't sell armor or anything, but if we need little knickknacks or rope, stuff like that. Bottles, adventuring equipment. Yeah. Toby Curry asks, what is your opinion on legendary resistances? Fellow YouTuber Pointy Hat doesn't use it at all. However, I don't know how you'd get around certain spells like banishment without changing the spells.
I'm in favor. On the political opinion of legendary resistances, I am pro legendary resistances. We talked about this in the boss battle video. You should go check it out if you haven't already. And in that, we talk about legendary resistances, and I basically think they're a second pool of hit points, and I think they're kind of essential to making D&D work with all these Saber Suck spells that are in it. I don't really know if it can work otherwise, but if some people like add damage on them or they do some other stuff, I don't really engage with any of that. I think they're perfectly fine. My players know to expect them, so they don't suck as much, and they try and work around. They try and make sure to get save versus half spells in or stuff like that will work regardless.
Daniel McGuffey says, what do I do about a player who swears his character is a masochist and so doesn't care about consequences?
It sounds to me like you gotta send in Heaven's Holy Hit Squad, the Amen, who come in and smite them. Like, you make them suffer the consequences of their own action if you think that's what needs to happen. If you're not having fun, you can also talk to that player and be like, hey, the way you have fun and the way I have fun are not the same thing. That is okay.
Jerch says, hi, do you have any tips for a prison arc in a fantasy setting that goes a little beyond the typical get in and get out heist? Are there any particular movies or tropes that go well with such a place?
Could you do the Andor arc? The prison arc in Andor?
Yes. Rebellion! That's not just escape, that's like overthrow the system.
Yeah, not escape. Take it down. Take it all down. Go watch Andor episodes 6 to 9, I think.
I can't swim. That broke my heart. Lou Delacosta says, do you have any tips on how to describe places you have no idea how they feel like? Myself, has never seen snow. I've read a lot about how to describe it to feel real, but, it looks like a movie reel.
That's fine. You can use movie language. I've never been to outer space, but we do scenes in, like, the flow, or, like, in space or whatever. I haven't been to the Wild West, but...
Never been to the desert. I've never been in a, tropical jungle.
Yeah.
There's, just because you haven't seen something that some people have seen, I'm sure it'll sound great. You can describe it as any way you want.
You can also describe adjacent feelings that you relate to it. So, you might not relate to snow specifically, but snow is cold. And you can describe cold. You can describe the way it feels on your fingertips, or the way your nose or your ears get really cold. You can pick those moments. Like when you're standing, like for us, when we were standing in the sun in the desert, I described the dust hanging in the air and coating the inside of your mouth. I've never been to a desert, but I have been in situations where my mouth is covered in dust.
Matt Without Fear asks, how do you balance someone who wants to play a morally gray / evil character with a party of good aligned characters?
Can they, like, as long as they're on the same page in terms of goal, everything works fine.
Yeah, like, if they literally can't agree with each other, or, can't be in the same room, then that just doesn't work. But, yeah. If they're aligned on something, if the morally gray character is like, being with these people gets me closer to my goal or gets me this thing I want, then they can work together.
Also, it's just a good source of scenes. You can, like we were talking about interrogating your players. Go ask the good people, how do you feel about the bad guy? How do you feel about this anti-hero or whatever we've got with us? Go ask the anti-hero, how do you feel about... these goody two-shoes who think they're better than you. How do you feel about, why don't you come join us, the villains, play with it. It's a source of RP if you're willing to go delve into it.
The Shiat says, I love creating characters with flaws.
This guy's the Shiat.
A ranger who never hits a target, a bard who can't sing, a barbarian afraid to fight. What are your favorite character flaws you have played with? I don't know. I typically don't pick, like... I feel like I don't, like, pick a flaw from the get-go. I kind of discover it through roleplay. I'm
playing someone who's has got terminal case of hubris.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun.
I'm playing Maeve, like in my current one, like she has a lot of pride.
Mm-hmm.
And she's also pretty stubborn. And so sometimes, she kind of puts her foot in her mouth or like kind of will like knee jerk react when people say something because she's like, that's not how that, like, what?
Yeah.
Of course not. But, if in an hour she might be like, okay, that wasn't like the optimal move or whatever. So I don't know. Like I said, there's not a particular thing. It's just what makes for interesting roleplay. What creates problems.
Yeah.
Carol X, I play an online game where the GM makes some battles crazy impossible and brings an NPC to save the day. I told him politely I don't think it's fun, but he's done it 3 times since. What else can I do? If you've told it to him and he keeps doing it, you could talk to the rest of your like party members or whatever, see if they're experiencing the same thing as you. I'm not saying this is the solution, but just, if it's a party-wide problem, it turns out it's not just you, you could try to have more of a group conversation. But otherwise, if that's what the DM is gonna do, maybe it's the same thing that we said earlier. Maybe it's just not the game for you.
Might not be. You can also comment on it in character if you want. You could have your characters say to the other characters, wow, we really shouldn't be doing the quest we're doing. We are not suited for it. These other people are way better than we are. We should let them handle it, because, and then put it in front of the DM. Like, I don't think my character is going to continue to go on this quest. We have been defeated at every turn. These NPCs who save the day should do it. But also, like, run the game you want to play. The DM is kind of cursed to want to play a certain kind of game. I really want to play this political. I really want to play this political domain management, fantasy game. Nobody wants to run it for me, so I have to go run it for other people. I'm just clicking all the buttons.
Yeah, I'm just looking. But
I think we missed some questions.
No, we haven't.
Okay. Can I scroll?
Sure. Það var eitt sem
Okay.
það var bara einhvern veginn korta, þetta var ekki spurning.
Oh hey, it's Rich from Renegade Rolls. Thanks so much, Rich. Everybody go check out Rich. He does a bunch of videos.
Scotland.
We're probably gonna go to Scotland. We're gonna go to Scotland this year.
Yeah, I think in October we're going to Scotland.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah. We've reached the bottom of the live chat, so if people have more questions, want to throw them in now. People on the Discord, last call. Otherwise, we might start wrapping it up.
Thanks, Igloo. That was so fun to make that video on Hex Scrolls. We got Bob in it, which was honestly, I've been watching Bob for years. That was kind of wild. We got him to film a bit for us and then work a sketch into it.
All right, Alan Tang Chun says, question. ADHD IRL friend claims he can only pay attention when he is the DM, but while he is good, I don't really like his style, but don't want to ruin the group by insisting I or someone else DM.
You don't have to play in his game.
No. Yeah, like there's not really a question here. Like, if you're not feeling it, if you're not enjoying it, then you should be in a different game. Or you could, start off you could DM your own game on an alternate day, have a different friend group there. But if you don't like how someone DMs, then don't play. Don't
play in games you don't want to play in. Like, nothing really you can do about that. I relate as a DM. I have a hard time focusing as a player. I have to be on my phone. I've started drawing when I'm playing because I can't focus otherwise. So I understand where they're coming from, but I also often am invited to play in games by people who I don't enjoy their style terribly much, or maybe I'm willing to try and then I don't like the commitment. I recuse myself all the time. You are allowed to say, listen, this isn't for me, or I don't have the time, or you're allowed to say, listen, I want to run the game. I don't want to stop running. You don't have to yield for someone else.
JP says, have you ever tried West March's open sandbox, by the way?
Yeah, we ran a like an 80 session West Marches game with like 50 or 60 people a few years ago. It was a lot of fun. There were loads of dungeon masters, loads of players. Sadly, it sort of fizzled out, but it was a lot of fun. Does the chicken have a name? Can we name the chicken?
I got the chicken like 2 hours ago.
Chat can name the chicken.
All
hey,
right.
Misty, nice to see you.
Chat, put in a name for the chicken. What do you think the chicken should be named?
What are your favorite session snacks? Turkish pepper.
Anything that isn't too crunchy or crinkly.
Yeah. Like what's brosur? Hard
like
candy.
Lozenge or hard candy?
Yeah, hard candy is good because you can stick it in your mouth and then you can just sort of suck on it while you talk. Blimey.
Hee hee. Prince Chicken Hair says, how do you run vision obscurity in combat? Like if someone used fog cloud of darkness. I really struggled to know how to run this without metagaming coming into play. I hate stuff that ruins vision.
You can, if you want, decide that there is going to be no RP difference between seeing something and not seeing something. You just use the rules for making attacks with disadvantage. They're there to abstract it out. You can just say, when it's in the fog cloud, you have disadvantage because you're basically blinded. And then run that. And then don't worry about the fact that the exact position can't be worked out. You can hear, you can see, you can remember. You can suss things out and just move on from there. Disadvantage if you can't see the exact position.
Dekedge says, how do you shelf them in a way they're still fresh when you come back to them? I don't know.
There was a question above that might have had context also from...
Oh, question. Classic ADHD DM condition. I got a lot of ideas that excite me, so I want to use them immediately. But I also know that they would work better in other campaign premises I cooked.
How do you shelf them?
How do you shelf them in the one?
I have a spreadsheet. I write down my ideas and pitches for them, and I put them in, and then whenever I'm like, I should run something, there's a month with no availability in it, so I'm going to run a new adventure in it. I'll open up the spreadsheet, I'll see what excites me, I'll pick something off of the thing. And you can also do it in Obsidian, you can write little paragraphs about it, and you can slowly build on those things in a non-linear fashion.
Expected Spectre says, do you think that as a player you can over-prepare a character for a campaign or adventure?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. If like for instance, I had a player that I love playing with and still play with all the time. And he would sometimes send me ludicrously long backstories that I just did not have time to read. And I would just tell him, I'd be like, I can't get my way through this. And eventually I started getting shorter backstories, and that helped a lot. If you're sending your DMs like novels or whatever, if you're sending them 50 things that you expect to happen to your character, you're kind of putting too much of a burden on them.
Backyard Car Builds asks, how do you tell if your players are having a good time without outright asking them every session? I have a hard time reading the room, haha.
When they finally kill the monster or roll a critical hit, do they go, yay? Do they, when something scary happens, do they go, ugh?
Do they emotionally react? Do they visibly care about the things happening?
Yeah.
While playing? If
they're doing that, then you're probably doing something right, and you should give yourself a pat on the back. If they're kind of stone-faced the whole time, you have to figure out ways to hook them. You have to go make sure that there is something you can get them with. I had this guy, this friend of mine, who I went to film school with, and he had a condition on his voice, and he wanted to be a director. And it was kind of remarkable because he had to talk very quietly, and his voice was raspy, and it made it so that in order for us to listen to him, we all had to stop talking. And it reminds me of this thing that they teach in speech debate, which is that when you're talking, if you're trying to make a point, you don't speed up or go louder if you're losing the audience. You go quiet. And then they lean in to the break, and they go, what's he going to say next? And then you pause, and then you say the thing. And it creates this sort of hook. So if you're just sort of blurting, you want to try and vary up the rhythm to try and control them. Engage them one-on-one and see if you can hook them in, and then see if they're emoting and reacting, and if they visibly, audibly have a reaction.
Adrian Doindetmis says, how long, if at all, did it take for you to stop doubting yourself completely when it comes to prep? I'm constantly worried that my prep is insufficient.
I do that all the time. Literally, this
he hasn't stopped.
This weekend we were like, we're gonna play in this cabin, and I was going like, I don't know if I have enough. We were gonna start yesterday, and I was freaking out, so I went for a walk for about 40 minutes just to clear the head, because I was like, I'll figure it out. You just have to start learning to trust yourself. And here's the thing, though. People think as you stop doubting yourself, you start trusting yourself. Like it's one spectrum. I don't think that's true. I think you doubt yourself and you trust yourself. And those are two different things. You can doubt yourself a lot and trust yourself a lot. And those contradictory thoughts can exist at the same time. So if your doubt goes up, you just have to learn to build up your own trust alongside it, to trust yourself more than you doubt yourself. That's all.
Misty Step says, ever done a deal with the devil with a player who maybe rolled some bad stats or played in a role that may allow it? Thoughts on it, if so?
Yeah, I ran Descent into Avernus, and that's kind of the premise of that adventure, is that when somebody goes unconscious or whatever, you try and buy their souls. Devils come along and they try and get the soul of the player. That's a lot of fun. I know that Stephanie Plays Games did a good video on this, talking about hags and fey bargains, and you should absolutely go check her out. But what you do is you really give them something they want, and then you make them pay a high price for it. And kind of the purpose of those scenes, to me at least, I think, is letting the player say no dramatically. I will do this on my own.
Scanda Panda says, will we see more of the Obsidian Web?
I'm certain we will.
Alright, I think just a couple more. The Unaccountable. When running a rules light system, how do you capture the interest of a mechanics-focused player who has a less detailed backstory than the rest of the party?
That sounds very specific. I hope that player isn't watching this video. I don't really have an answer. I played D&D 5th edition. So I'm sorry, I wish I could help you more.
Milo Coleman says, question, there's a discussion in a previous live that you two may be going to the UK Games Expo. If you are, would you do a channel meetup? Would love to buy you both a drink as a thank you.
Aww.
Thanks. I think, yeah, we're talking about it.
We're talking about it.
We'll let you guys know once that's finalized. It isn't yet. Yeah, maybe we could do a...
Cluck Norris!
A Miko...
Cluck Norris!
Oh, Cluck... This is Cluck Norris.
Nice.
He shakes his butt.
Cluck Norris's butt.
That's good. Cluck Norris is good.
We'll tell you more when we know more about the Games Expo. Jonas.
Question. Me and my DM are trying to figure out how to make other PCs see that my character is a real problem, becoming the messiah of a non-pantheon deity, bringing the void. Do you have any tips?
If you haven't seen the Nails arc in the Chain of Acheron live, you should go check it out. That is awesome. It's 5 episodes. It's the first 5 episodes of that show. You're going to have a lot of fun. Basically, you and your DM are going to have to get into lockstep, and you're going to have to scheme your way through it. Gustit says, actually been busy writing the longest backstory yet. Yeah, Gustit, I was talking about you. I'm sorry.
All right. Let's do...
Hang on. Grant says, besides the dragon video, what's in the pipeline? Next month, we're doing Dungeon Mayhem, named by Bearcat18, who's in chat right now.
Dungeon Month,
Dungeon Mayhem, and we're going to talk about dungeons all month. And then, at the end of it, there's going to be another collab, not unlike Dragon Week, but we don't have Ginny D. But
or do we?
And it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be all about dungeons, and it's going to have a lot of stuff that you can immediately take and put in your own game. And Grant, you should know about this. You're in the Dungeon Jam, so it's going to be awesome.
He's helping us advertise.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I'm going to say this is the last question.
Okay.
Relevant to me because I have a fairy dragon. Question: How do you handle good familiars that are?
How do you handle how good familiars are at scouting your entire dungeon?
Oh, there you go.
Seems like whenever something could kill the familiar, they snap out of existence before anything can be done.
Okay, well, she can die, so not...
So not yours.
Yeah.
Don't let him snap out of existence. It's an action to snap your familiar out of existence. Roll initiative against the familiar, and then kill it. Or, don't roll any dice. Just describe the familiar coming around the corner, give them a thing or two, and then say, the goblin shoots the familiar. 7 damage. Your familiar's dead, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to... The players want to be able to have fun, but they also want to be able to do this in the most efficient way possible. If the most efficient way possible isn't fun, their two conflicts are in opposition. So you got to do them the favor of making the most efficient way possible be fun. That means when the familiar goes to scout the entire dungeon, kill the familiar.
All right. I think that's it for questions.
Yep.
Thanks everyone for showing up to the live stream. We'll do one again if we hit 50k in the future, and then that's gonna be the end of these for a while because we're not gonna make them
all
the time because that seems a bit obnoxious. But it's just been really exciting seeing everything happen so fast and all the support pouring in.
We really are absolutely blown away all the time by this, and it's kind of been bizarre to us this whole time because we just got here and we're having fun and we're trying to make sure that we make stuff that warrants the attention we're getting. We're trying to make sure that we're not letting anybody down. So whenever we see these crazy numbers, it usually stops us dead in our tracks and reminds us how incredibly lucky we are that we get to be doing this for all of you folks. And we really hope that you like what you see.
Yeah. So if you want to, again, have priority for asking questions the next time we do one of these, you can become a YouTube channel member, or you can subscribe to our Patreon. Also on the Patreon, there's some extra stuff that you can't get on YouTube, like,
the PDFs for the Warlord,
the PDFs
Fire Rules.
There's some random behind the scenes or just extra stuff that we make.
Thanks, Michael. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the $10 for the new catatonic.
Oh my God, thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much. But yeah, otherwise, if not, just come hang out with us the next time we do one of these. And yeah, check out our Dragon Week video will be coming up soon. And next month in May is Dungeon Mayhem, as Daði said. So if you've been looking for more advice on dungeons, running them, making them, innovating on them, then that's next month.
And that's where we'll pick it up next time. Thank you so much for watching. As always, this channel is run by me and my girlfriend, and we're having a lot of fun talking to you folks about all this. Until next time, keep studying the mystic arts.
Yes, Sexy Dragon Week.
What? Sexy Dragon Week?